Silent, silent పెట్టవా శరత్? శరత్, సైలెంట్ పెట్టు. రెండు. Right. Good evening, students. Welcome to Sosin IS Academy. So today in this video, we'll see PT to 2024 paper explanation. So here we were actually discussing Set A paper. Hope you must have understood it. So now let us go with the questions here. The first questions of the set are questions from geography. So let us go with the first question. The first question is, statement, it is a statement based question, by the way. And let me tell you one thing. Here in this particular paper, unlike the previous year trends, this year we got more number of geography questions, and also the questions were more in a very basic manner. Okay. So coming to this particular question, the atmosphere is heated more by incoming solar radiation than by terrestrial radiation. This is the first statement. The second statement is carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere are good absorbers of long wave radiation. I hope you must be remembering the classroom sessions that we have did with respect to geography. I have already explained there that we have something called heat budget. Okay. If you remember heat budget, through it you can understand that if there is 100% of so-called solar radiation that is coming towards the earth, 14% of solar radiation is absorbed by the atmosphere and 35% is albedo and 51% is absorbed by earth's surface. Whereas when it comes to the terrestrial radiation, remember everyone, solar radiation is a high frequency shortwave radiation. Hope you all knew this. Then terrestrial radiation is a low frequency long wave radiation. Okay, it's a low frequency long wave radiation. Therefore, atmosphere absorbs 34% of terrestrial radiation. So if you compare solar radiation's absorption and terrestrial radiation absorption, which is something which is influencing the temperature of atmosphere, it is terrestrial radiation. So in the heat budget, there will be a statement saying that the major source of heat and light for the earth's surface is sun, whereas the major source of heat and light for the atmosphere is earth surface. So it means the temperature of atmosphere is highly influenced by the terrestrial radiation. So with this particular context, if you consider the first statement, the atmosphere is heated more by incoming solar radiation. Is it correct statement? Of course it is not. The atmosphere is heated more by terrestrial radiation. To be more precise, we can say long wave terrestrial radiation. The first statement is incorrect. Okay, then coming to the second part. Carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere are good absorbers of long wave radiation. They are not only the good absorbers, they also reflect back the radiation, and that was the reason why we are facing something called global warming because of the increased percentage of carbon dioxide and all. Now, if you get through this particular part, we can say statement 2 is correct. Right. So what was the statement? What was the answer here? It is D. Statement 1 is incorrect because it was terrestrial radiation which actually contributes more. Then statement 2 is correct. So your answer is D here. Okay. Now let us go with another question. So second question, this is also geography question, a very basic question. Trust me people, if you go through the NCRTs in a more detailed manner, you would really see all these particular statements coming from them itself. Okay, now coming to the statement 1, thickness of troposphere at equator is much greater as compared to poles. In our classroom sessions as well, if you remember, we discussed about various aspects with respect to atmospheric pressure. We talked about circulations, atmospheric circulations and all. Okay, in that, I have explained with respect to troposphere, right? So troposphere is the first layer of atmosphere. Its thickness basically vary, isn't it? It varies with respect to equator and the poles. And how it varies based upon the rate of evaporation. Okay, based upon the so-called incoming solar radiation, based upon the heat on the so-called surface, the length of the troposphere varies as well. So now when it comes to equator, it is much greater. So if you consider it as Earth's surface and this is the troposphere, troposphere will be much wider, or you can say thicker, near the equator, and it becomes thinner when you go towards the pole region. So statement 1 here is correct. Now what was the second statement? At equator, heat is transported to greater heights by strong convectional currents. Okay, so what is this equatorial zone? We call it as intertropical convergence zone, isn't it? Because whenever Earth's surface temperature rises, if there is high temperature on Earth's surface, it leads to low pressure in the atmosphere. And whenever this happens, the air converges towards the low pressure and it raises. And if it raises, till where it will go? It will go till tropopause, isn't it? So it means because the so-called thickness of troposphere near equator is greater, the heat transported to greater heights. Okay, that means the convectional currents will be little stronger. So what was the answer here? Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and also statement 2 explains statement number 1. So this is what your answer is. Okay. Now let us go with the another question. Third one. Consider the following. So he have given certain compounds and he is asking how many of the above compounds are the product of volcanic eruptions. Okay, so how many of the above compounds are so-called result of volcanic eruptions? So in your geography, you must have learned about different types of volcanic eruptions, right? So in that, you will get pyroclastic debris, you will get ash and dust, nitrogen compounds will be getting, sulfur compounds will be getting. And to discuss more detail with respect to this, hope you all knew lava flows, isn't it? When there is a volcanic eruption, along with the so-called lava, these are all these are all some other products which we see during the eruption part. So you can say all the four above are correct. Okay. Now let us go with another question. Which of the following is or are correct inference or inferences from the isothermal maps in the month of January? So what are isotherms? If we connect the areas of similar temperatures, areas having same temperatures, though, and if you draw a line, those are nothing but isotherms. Okay, so if you consider during summers the land and sea temperature varies, isn't it? In climatology we must have learned this. In summers land will be at higher temperature, and in so-called winters water will be at higher temperature because of the variations in the specific heat, isn't it? So now here the first statement is isotherms deviate to north over this ocean and deviate to south over the so-called continent. This is the first statement. And the second one is the presence of cold currents, Gulf Stream and North Atlantic drift make North Atlantic oceans colder and isotherm bend towards the north. Now, if you consider people, this particular question is a combination of knowledge from the so-called climatology, and you also need to have some knowledge with respect to oceanography as well. Because in oceanography, you will be learning about different ocean currents, right? So, in that, if you consider ocean currents play a very significant role with respect to many aspects, isn't it? So, coming to this particular question, the answer is two only, because the first, if you consider isotherms, okay, in the summer season, if you consider the land part in the northern hemisphere is little more and water part is little less, and in the here if you consider isotherms, they actually move in certain way. Okay, and in winter season, the isotherms move or act in a different way. Why? Because land will be at higher temperature during summer because the specific heat of land is different. Whereas water, when you consider, it will be at low temperature. Do not consider high temperature means the high, as high as 50 degrees, and low temperature means as low as or 20 degrees or something. Here what I want to say you is that land temperature will be little higher in the summer. It means when you draw all the points that are having similar temperature, isotherms will deviate, isn't it? So he's saying that it deviates to north over the ocean. No, it basically deviates south towards the ocean and north in the continent. Okay, so that's the reason the answer here is 2. It means only 2 is correct. Okay, now let's go with another one. So this is more like a straightforward question, I can say. Which of the following countries are well known as the two largest cocoa producers in the world? So basically, some questions in this paper, what I can say is that they're more basic in nature, and there are certain questions which are straight away coming from the current affairs part as well. Okay, so if you go through the last year's current affairs as well, these are the places which were in news as well. Okay, the following countries well known for largest cocoa production. So it was option C. Okay, so Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Okay, so these are the two largest producers of cocoa in the world. Okay, now let us go with another question. Sixth one. With reference to Himalayan rivers, joining the Ganga downstream of Prayagraj from west to east. Which of the following sequence is correct? Okay, you must be learning about the drainage system of India when you're preparing for the so-called Indian geography. So, if you prepare it well, you can easily understand the answer here is, see, we have four options: Ghagra, Gomati, Gandak, and Kosi. Gomati, Gagra, and Gandak and Kosi. So it means we all obviously knew that Gandak and Kosi are the two rivers that join in the last, isn't it? The only what do you say doubt which we get is between Gomati and Ghagra. Here, Gomati joins Ganga first and then Ghagra. So if you go from west to east, it is Gomati first and then Ghagra and then Gandak and then Kosi. Okay, so this is the so-called sequence which is correct. So sixth answer is B. The seventh question. So this is also a very basic question. See, so far if you consider all the six questions that we have discussed, there are certain map based questions. There are questions which are very much generic in nature, very basic in nature, and these questions are more like straightforward, isn't it? So if you prepare the basics well, you could have answered this particular paper in a good manner. Right. Let us go with the seventh question. Here we have three statements. Okay. And the question is with respect to weathering. The first statement is rainfall is one of the reasons for weathering of rocks. So what is weathering? Disintegration of rocks. Okay. So in situ, isn't it? If there is a rock and if it disintegrates then and there, and if it leads to formation of soil, we call it as weathering, isn't it? So we have three types of exogenetic forces. We have weathering, erosion, and mass movements. In that, weathering is the first initial step with respect to exogenetic forces. So rainfall is obviously one of the reasons for weathering. Okay, if you remember freeze thaw action, whenever there is a rock, okay, and whenever water accumulates in the so-called pores of the rock, okay, hope you all knew water expands when it is cooled. Okay, so it means the water which has enter the rock turns into ice during the winter season. It means water expands and it generates some cracks in the rocks. That also leads to weathering activity. So it means rainfall in many ways is a reason for breakdown or disintegration of rocks, isn't it? So with common sense also, you can actually answer certain questions in this paper is what I feel. Okay, so rainfall is one of the reasons for weathering of rocks, of course, yes. Then rainfall water contains carbon dioxide in solution. Yes, this is also a right statement. Then rainwater contains atmospheric oxygen. Yes, it does contain atmospheric oxygen. So it means both the statements, statement number 2 and statement number 3 are correct, and they both explain statement number one as well. Because see, if you consider weathering process, guys, I told you weathering means disintegration of rocks, and we have different types of weathering as well. We have physical weathering, chemical weathering, biological weathering as well. So it means if you consider rainwater, which is containing carbon dioxide in solution and containing atmospheric oxygen as solution, it also contributes to some kind of chemical weathering, isn't it? So it means statement 2 and 3 are correct and they both explain statement number 1. So seventh question answer is A. Right? Let's go with another one. Eighth question. Consider the following countries. See, if you see in this paper, I have observed many map-based questions. Even if you consider certain questions as questions coming from international relations, IR-based questions, you can say that most of the questions requires geography basis. In general, compared to last year papers, you can say that there are some more number of geography questions which were given in this paper, and that too very basic in nature. Okay, so hope you all knew UPSC is very uncertain, right? So you must have seen last year's paper, and we have did some vigorous preparation, thinking about very toughest parts or toughest current affairs, etc., etc. But remember, every time we should not lose those basics because most of the questions with can be solved with the basic knowledge that we have. Okay, so if you see this paper, the same thing is getting reflected, right? So here, most of the times you must have seen questions coming with respect to countries bordering Mediterranean Sea, countries bordering Red Sea, isn't it? Countries bordering Caspian Sea, Black Sea, and all. Right now, this year we got a question regarding countries having boundaries with North Sea. Okay, so hope you all knew where is North Sea between Britain and Europe. Okay, in between we have North Sea. So what were the options that you were left with? How many of the above countries have border with North Sea, right? So of course, Finland is not the one. Russia, of course, can be eliminated. So what are the two countries that were having border with North Sea? It is Germany and Norway. So option number B is correct here. Okay, so there are many straightforward questions, but requires little knowledge. Okay, fine. Now, ninth question. So in this paper, there were some more questions which are having, which are demanding the knowledge of Indian geography in detail as well. Generally, in optional students of geography read little more, mapping aspects with respect to India. But this time, if you consider the prelims paper, the things got little different. Okay, so there was a question here. He have given a table giving waterfall, region, and the river. Okay, so down there waterfalls. Okay, Down waterfalls. These are near Jabalpur in Madhya Pradesh region. So they actually belongs to this particular river itself. They are on this particular river itself, Narmada River. But they do not belong to Malwa region because Malwa is little sideways. If you consider India like this, okay, so we have Aravalis, Vindhyas, and Satpura. So you have Malwa plateau like this. Okay, and your Jog Falls or Jabalpur or this particular thing lies somewhere here. Okay, so it means they are little close to Malwa plateau, you can say. So you can say this particular first matching is incorrect. They are on the Narmada River, but not on the Malwa plateau, I can say. Then the second one, Hundru waterfalls in Chota Nagpur region and the river is Subarnarekha. These three are perfectly matched. Then Gersopa waterfalls, they are in Western Ghats, yes, but they are not on the Netravati river. Okay, it is Sharavati. So it means only one pair is correct. So our answer is A. Fine, everyone. So it means here, if you see down there waterfalls, most of us will be aware of it, isn't it? It is in Narmada River. But we may not be properly aware whether it belongs to Malwa Plateau or not. Okay. So it means you need to understand along with the river, you also need to have proper knowledge with respect to the region where they are present as well. Fine. So now let us go with another question. Charger, please. Charger, please. Fine. Now, coming to another question. This is also a similar question to the first one which we have seen. So we have a region, name of the mountain, and what type of mountain it is. Okay. Now let me recall some aspects of your geomorphology. In geomorphology, you must be aware of tectonic activities. We have different types of tectonic plates, right? So we have convergent plate boundaries, divergent plate boundaries, and transform plate boundaries. And within convergence also, we have continent-continent convergence. You remember the Indian plate got attached to the Eurasian plate. Due to the convergence, we got Himalayas which were formed. So whenever there is convergence activity, okay, you can say continent-continent convergence. Generally, it leads to the formation of fold mountain systems. Okay, so it means our Himalayas and Alps were the best example of fold mountain systems. Okay, Himalayas and Alps are the best example of fold mountain systems, whereas Appalachian and Andes, they are the old fold mountains. They are also a result of convergence, but they are a result of Andes is a result of ocean continent convergence. In your classroom sessions as well, if you remember, we discussed about ocean continent convergence, right? Nazca plate, converging with the South American plate, leading to the Cordillera of Andes. Okay, and we have trench as well, Peru-Chile trench. Now coming to this particular part, he has given the mountain ranges and the areas where they are present. So where is this Vosges mountains? It is not in Central Asia. It is in France. So here the region itself is a wrong one. And Vosges mountains, they are basically block mountains. They're not fold mountains. Why? Because they formed due to the divergence activity. Okay, so you must be knowing there'll be normal fault, there'll be reverse fault wherein the land raises, isn't it? So it means Vosges, due to the divergence there, see, in your divergence, you'll have different stages, guys. What is divergence? Two continental plates moving away from each other. So what happens when there is divergence? There will be cracks, there will be rift valleys, there will be linear seas, there will be divergence like mid-oceanic ridges which we see in the Atlantic Ocean. So if you go to the physical map of the world, you can easily understand. If you see East African Rift Valley, it is a best example for divergence. Red Sea is the best example for divergence. It's a one stage of divergence. So Vosges mountains were also best examples of divergence. So it means during divergence, you generally find block mountain formation. Whereas during convergence, you find fold mountain systems. With this basic knowledge, you can easily answer this particular question. Okay. Now coming to Alps. Are they block mountains? They are in Europe, of course. Alps were there in Europe. Everybody knows this. But are they block mountains? No. So it means the second one was also incorrect. Now coming to third part. Okay. They were in Europe, but this is wrong option because they are not block mountains. Now coming to North America. Appalachian mountains were there. They were fold mountains. Basically, to be more precise, they are old fold mountains. Okay, they are old fold mountains. So, of course, you can say this is a right match. Then we have South America. We have Andes. We can say Cordillera of Andes because there are parallel ranges of mountains which were present here. So, what is a range? A continuous chain of mountains. If you have parallel chain of continuous mountains, we call it as Cordillera. And if you see in the atlas as well, it will be mentioned Cordillera of Andes. So it means they are fold mountains itself. So what was your answer for ninth one? Sorry, for 10th question, it is B. So North America Appalachian, fold mountains, Andes, fold mountains. But here, the so-called matching is not correct. Vosges, it's not in Central Asia, it was in France. Okay. Now let us go with another question. Fine. This is a current affair based question. Consider the following airports. Doni Polo Airport, Kushinagar Airport, Vijayawada International Airport. In the recent past, which of the above have been constructed as greenfield airports? Now, here the question is, what airports are called as greenfield airports? Those product projects which were developed from the scratch. Okay, earlier if there is no development, if they have started from the scratch to develop that particular area, we can say that as greenfield airports. So if you're following the current affairs, PIB, or if you're following Hindu or something of that sort, you can easily understand Doni Polo Airport is the first greenfield airport, and Kushinagara as well. So here, straight away, this question is coming from current affairs. Okay, so what was the answer here? Vijayawada International Airport is not a greenfield airport. It's near Gannavaram. It is not a international airport. So option A and option number 1 and 2 are correct. So option A is your answer. Okay, now let us go with another question. 12th question. With reference to water vapor, which of the following statements are correct? In general, UPSC used to confuse us, keeping here incorrect instead of correct statement, right? But here we have, we need to pick the correct statements, okay? Fine. The first statement, water vapor, it is a gas, the amount of which decreases with altitude. This is a right statement because how water vapor is formed from childhood, we'll be learning the same thing. Sunlight enters into the water, water evaporates, it rises basically, and it leads to water vapor formation. And that was the reason why we are having clouds as well. Whereas when it comes to the amount of water vapor, it is a little heavier, so it decreases with altitude. Okay, so the first statement, obviously, you can understand it is a correct statement. Then, and if you consider the Earth surface, you all knew that Earth is rotating in a tilted axis, 23.5-degree tilt, right? Due to the tilted axis rotation of the Earth, solar radiation varies with respect to latitudes. In the month of March and September, solar radiation is straight on equator. In the month of June, which is the summer solstice in northern hemisphere, solar radiation is straight on Tropic of Cancer. In the month of December, solar radiation is straight on Tropic of Capricorn because the so-called tilt of the earth and the revolution of the earth around the sun. If you consider all these things, you will be easily, knowing this point that equator in general receives 12 hours of solar radiation throughout the year because day and night near the equator are similar, right? So due to this, evaporation will be little more near the equator. And if you consider the presence of water vapor in the atmosphere, it generally ranges between 1% to 4%. Near the equator, we have water vapor which is 4%. And if you move towards the poles, it reduces to 1%. So it means what? From equator towards the poles when you are moving, the so-called percentage of water vapor decreases. It means where is it maximum? It is maximum at equator, right? Now what is the second statement here? The percentage is maximum at poles. Of course, it's a wrong statement. So what will be your answer? Option number A will be your answer. Fine. Now let us see another question. See, these are all the basic questions of climatology itself. Okay, but the problem here is we may not concentrate the basics much. Remember, most of the people says climatology is the toughest part of geography. But if you learn that in a very proper manner, in a detailed manner, you feel climatology being more interested part in the whole geography part. Okay, right. Now, 13th question. Now see, you must have learned about world climate. In world climate classification, you understand in our class notes as well, we have discussed this, right? So we have mentioned what type of climate it is, what was the annual range of temperature, precipitation patterns, human activities, isn't it? So when you consider climate of a region, what will you talk about? You'll talk about the temperature, you'll talk about precipitation, you'll talk about wind system, right? You will talk about human activities, you'll talk about crops that can be grown in that particular region, isn't it? So when you consider all of these particular things, you understand each and every climate is having a different characteristics, isn't it? So that's the reason it has become difficult for climatologists to classify the climate, right? Any. Now he has given characteristics of the so-called climate of a certain regions. Okay. Now let us go with that. Annual daily range of temperatures is low. Okay, this is the first statement. Precipitation occurs throughout the year. Precipitation varies between 50 centimeters to 250 centimeters. See how trickily they have framed this question. Basically, if you consider the second statement, precipitation occurs throughout the year, you can easily eliminate option number B and C from this, isn't it? Throughout the year, where will you find precipitation? Obviously, with the knowledge that we have from the basics, we knew that it is equatorial climate. But there are two more statements which have to be satisfied. If you consider the third one, precipitation varies between 50 centimeters to 250 centimeters, isn't it? So does it happen near the equator? No. Equator receives around 200 centimeters of rainfall, more than 200 centimeters of rainfall in general. It doesn't vary between 50 to 250 centimeters. And secondly, if you consider the annual daily range of temperatures, it is more or less similar near the equator. Why? Because throughout the year, equator generally receives 12 hours of solar radiation. 12 hours. But when you consider Tropic of Cancer, the so-called Indian subcontinent, we are, in the tropical region, right? Tropic of Cancer. If you consider summers, daylight will be little more, whereas in winters, night will be of greater duration. So there is a variation in day and night duration in the tropics, but that was not the similar case in the equator. So because equator always have 12 hours of solar radiation, it generally have similar temperatures throughout, not low. You can say low, but not so low. Okay, so there will be moderating effect near the equator due to the precipitation patterns. Okay, so the answer for this particular question is marine west coast climate. Okay, so generally we observe marine west coast climate between 40 to 60 degree latitude. Okay, between 40 to 60 degree latitude. Whereas when it comes to the so-called precipitation, it is 50 to 250 centimeters. The annual temperatures will be low, and this region always receives, you can say their rainfall occurs throughout the year. That's why the word marine is mentioned. What is marine climate? It means you're receiving a good amount of precipitation. That's why we name it as marine, right? Generally, in the tropical region, remember people, in the tropical region, it means if you consider around 5 degrees to 25 or 30 degrees north south, we call it as tropical region. In tropical regions, if you consider the western coast, what do you find? We find deserts. Thar Desert, Sahara Desert, Namib Desert, Sonoran Desert, Atacama Desert. These are all the deserts which were present in different continents in tropical region. Whereas the so-called marine west coast climate that we were talking about, it is in this particular latitudes. Okay, so there the rainfall is basically received much. What happens is that children, people generally think that, see, west coast means generally dry climates, so we can eliminate that particular option because west coast we generally have deserts, right? In our classroom sessions as well, if you consider all the deserts in the world, they are generally in the western coast of the continent. So you might, feel as if it is a wrong option, and you might pick equatorial region because throughout the rain, throughout the year rainfall, etc., etc. Right? Because of this particular throughout the year rainfall itself, most of the people will consider equatorial climate is something which is mentioned here, or the description is with respect to equatorial, but it is not. Okay. To give some more information with respect to this, generally, marine west coast climate, if you consider, western coast of the continent between 40 degrees to 60-degree latitude is where you observe this particular climate. And these particular climates are high, especially in the coastal areas. We have high humidity as well. High humidity means throughout the year there will be more rainfall. That's what it signifies. And whereas equatorial climate, if you consider, equatorial climate receives very low annual temperature, and obviously rainfall exceeds 200 centimeters, and it goes till 400 centimeters as well. So rainfall range is not between 50 to 250. Okay, so this one statement, if you clearly observe, you can distinguish, you can really understand where it goes. Okay, so option is D here, marine west coast climate. So in this areas, generally soils will be fertile. Okay, and if you consider the southern Chile region, New Zealand region, or Western Europe, okay, southern Chile, New Zealand, Western Europe, these are all the areas where you find marine west coast climate. And I can happily say that most of the geography questions that we were discussing from with respect to PT 2024 paper was straight away from our class notes itself. If the students who are attending the class, or if there are students who have attended the general studies batch in the Sosin Academy the last year, you can easily understand most of the questions are straight away from your notes. If you could have revised your notes also, there itself you can eliminate certain options to pick the right one. Fine. Right. Let's go with another question. Question number 14. This is a question with respect to climatology again. Coriolis force. Which of the following statements are correct? So it means we have to pick the correct statements, right? Now the first one. Coriolis force increases with increase in wind velocity. This is something which is very basic. What is Coriolis force, guys? It was not a force basically, it was an effect caused due to the variation in the speeds of rotation of the earth. I hope you remember this. Okay, the earth is basically flattered near the poles and it is bulged near the equator. So what is the shape of the earth we say? It is geoid shape, bulged near the equator and flattered near the poles. Because of the variation with respect to this particular distances, Earth rotates at different speeds in different latitudes. So at equator, it rotates faster. Near poles, it is slower. So the speed of rotation of the Earth near the equator is little greater than greater compared to poles, right? So with this, you can understand this is what the reason causing the winds to drift. That's what is the Coriolis force we call. So obviously Coriolis force increases with increase in wind velocity because it is proportional to wind velocity. The wind velocity increases, Coriolis force increases as well. So the first statement is correct. Now the second one. It is maximum near the poles and absent near the equator. No. Why Coriolis force is happening? It is because of the variations in speeds of rotation of the Earth. It means from 5 degree north to 5 degrees south, which we call it as equatorial zone, the Coriolis force is zero. Why? This is the area where Earth rotates with a higher pace, faster. Okay. Whereas when you move to the poles, the speed of the rotation of the Earth changes. It varies. Okay. Now, Coriolis force is absent at the equator and it will be maximum at the polar region. The drift will be more. The impact will be more. Okay. So what was the answer here? Both the statements are correct. Coriolis force is proportional to wind velocity and it is absent near the equator, maximum at the poles. And that's what is the reason we do not have cyclone formation near the equator. Okay, hope you all understood. Equator is the area where Coriolis force is zero, and Coriolis force is the most important factor for the formation of cyclones. So if you remember that cyclone part as well, you can understand Coriolis force near the equator is zero. Fine, let's go with another one. Fine. On 21st June every year, which of the following latitudes experiences sunlight more than 12 hours? Now, you have sun, we have earth, which is rotating in the tilted axis. Okay, your Tropic of Cancer, equator, and Tropic of Capricorn. And this is another position of earth, Tropic of Cancer, equator, Tropic of Capricorn. Let us say this is the month of December, this is the month of June. Okay, so this is your northern hemisphere, this is your southern hemisphere, equator. Equator, northern hemisphere, and southern hemisphere. Now come to the part of June here. Okay, in the month of June, which face of the earth or which hemisphere of the earth is facing the sun? It is northern hemisphere. So it means the whole northern hemisphere experiences longer duration of day, that which we experience in the Indian subcontinent as well. If you consider the summer, even if it is 6:30 in the evening, the sun doesn't set, isn't it? Because the day duration is more. Now, when you move towards the polar region, you will have northern pole, which is at 24 hours of day. Hope you all knew, right? In North Pole, 6 months day and 6 months night. It means 24 hours of daylight will be there, right? Fine. With this particular information, let us answer this question. In the month of June, what are the latitudes that are experiencing more amount of sunlight, more than 12 hours? So in equator, generally in this month, you will have 12 hours. Okay, let me draw it separately here. So this is your northern hemisphere, your equator, and Tropic of Capricorn. So near the equator, obviously, throughout the year, you'll have 12 hours of daylight. Whereas in 23.5 degree northern hemisphere, which is Tropic of Cancer, you generally have 13.5 hours of daylight. Means 13 hours of day and the rest is, it means 11.5 hours, or that is night time. 11.5 hours is night and 13 hours of daylight will be there. If you move towards Arctic Circle, you will have 15 hours of day. Okay, 15 hours of day and the rest is night. 9 hours, isn't it? Then, if you go towards the northern pole, you have 24 hours of daylight. Whereas when it comes to Tropic of Capricorn, that is 23.5 degrees south, here we have 10.5 hours of daylight. Fine. So it means what? Tropic of Capricorn receives 10.5 hours. Equator receives 12 hours exactly. But we need to pick those areas which are having more than 12 hours of radiation. So what is your answer? Tropic of Cancer and Arctic Circle. These are the two areas where you receive more amount of sunlight during June. This isn't the case in the month of December, guys. The reverse happens in the month of December. Here, the month is important and also the hours of daylight, which is asked, is important. Right? So, your answer is 2 and 4. 15th question. Right? Let's go with another one. Okay, see, these questions of this sort are always, are always seen in the UPSC paper. Earlier, they used to ask regarding the biomes, tropical evergreen forests, tropical, deciduous forests, or something of that sort. They used to ask. And before that, in the earlier papers, if you see the trends of UPSC, there are many a times that the questions which were asked with respect to the national parks as well, which rivers flows along this particular national park. So they'll describe the region and they'll ask us what region is it denoting. Okay, so similar pattern of question is this one. So here the question is, one of the following regions has world's largest tropical peatland. Okay, so from this particular part itself, you can easily understand what region is he talking about? Congo Basin, isn't it? So it is world's largest peatland. Why world's largest peatland? Because Congo Basin and a Congo Basin is a region which is under hot, wet, equatorial climate. Okay, so that's the reason it's the world's largest tropical peatland. Okay, so now let us go with it. One of the following regions has world's largest tropical peatland, which holds about 3 years worth of global carbon emissions from fossil fuels, and possible destruction of which can exert detrimental effect on the global climate. So the answer here is nothing but your Congo Basin itself, because the preservation of Congo Basin peatlands is very much crucial for maintaining stable climate, for protecting the environment in order to protect the biodiversity. Okay, so the potential increase of vast amount of carbon would accelerate the global what do you say warming, global warming, and rise in the average temperature of the Earth's surface and all. Right. So for that purpose, it is really matters for us. Congo Basin is really much important with respect to carbon storage, with respect to biodiversity, with respect to climate regulation, with respect to many other aspects, right? So this was in news, and there are many a times questions. This is like amalgamation of environment and geography question. Okay, okay, right. So the answer here is Congo Basin, right? Let's go with another question. Okay, 17th question. Fine. So there ends, we can say, the questions of geography. So if you see, almost 16 questions are coming from geography itself, right? Can you send in the PDF format? Right? So we have this particular 17th question, which is more an environment question. So in the last year papers, if you consider, geography questions used to be little difficult and there will be less number of questions. But this year we have more number of questions with respect to geography. Okay, so from here we'll start discussing the environment questions. Okay, so environment, science, and tech questions were coming in the upcoming questions, right? Fine. With reference to perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is PFAS, that are used in making many consumer products, consider the following statements. So these are also questions coming from current affairs itself, guys. Okay, so let us go with the statements here. First statement. PFAS are found to be widespread in drinking water, food, and food packaging materials. Yes, this is due to their extensive use in various products, their resistance to water, oil, and heat. So these days, if you consider PFAS, they're widespread. Their presence is raising concern for the human exposure. Okay, so recently, if you consider, many countries have banned Indian products. Okay, there are many discussions going on, right? So this also you can consider as current affair based question itself. Okay, so the first statement, it means PFAS are found widespread in drinking water, food, and food packaging materials is a right statement. Then, PFAS are not easily degraded in the environment because their chemical structure is highly resistant to breakdown. Okay, so that's the reason this statement is also correct. Then, continuous or persistent exposure to PFAS can lead to bioaccumulation in human bodies. This is a raising concern these days. If you consider, if you go through the current affairs with respect to PFAS, this is a statement which you can easily, see that. Okay, fine. So persistent exposure can lead to bioaccumulation in animals. So due to their resistance to degradation, and bioaccumulation can have harmful effects on wildlife, right? In food chain, it affects the food chain. It affects, it poses the threat to human health as well. Okay, so I can say all the three statements as usual from science and technology and some basic parts of environment. If you consider, 90% you can understand all the statements being correct. Okay, fine. So the answer for 17th question is 1, 2 and 3. Okay, fine. Now let us go with another question, right? Consider the following. So you have different parasitoid species which were found. So we have to you have to pick parasitoid species that are found, and how many of the above are kind of organisms that we have. Okay, so let us go with the species that were given here. So among them, here the parasitoid species means those species which are which spend a significant portion of their life cycle attached to or within a single host organism. Okay, so generally, if you understand the meaning of parasitoid species, okay, so you can easily pick the species above. Okay, so it is flies and wasps because these are the species which spend their significant portion of their life within a single host organism in relationship that ultimately leads to the host death. So flies and wasps. Okay. Whereas termites, centipedes, or carabid beetles, these are all not something which can be considered here. Okay. So the answer for this particular question is only two, flies and wasps. Okay, so to have more information with respect to that, they are common in some insects groups but not in others. So if you consider carabid beetles, okay, they are primary predators. Okay, they are not parasitoids. Okay, they are primary predators. Then if you consider centipedes, so you can write here they are predators. Okay, then if you consider centipedes, they are also predators, okay, but they're not known to be parasites. So these two options you can say both are predators. Okay, whereas parasitoid species means they generally connect with or attach to a single host, but that was not the case with respect to carabid. Of course, these also will lead to host death. Then termites, okay, they are social insects. Okay, so coming to this particular part, flies and wasps are the two parasitoid species that we have. So answer is A. Let us go with another question. Fine. 19th question. Consider the following plants and how many of the above belong to pea family? Okay, so this question, if you consider, you must have understood. Okay, pea family means they should be belong. Horse gram belongs to the pea family. Soya bean is also. Groundnut is also, right. So there is no more explanation that is required for this. Straight away, you can say all the three above. All the three above are belongs to pea family. It's a groundnut, horse gram, and soya bean as well. Okay, fine. So all the three is the answer. Now let us consider another question. Fine. So again, we have a statement based question. Okay, so the first statement is the Indian flying fox is placed under vermin category in the wildlife protection. So as I told you, environment questions were also a little more in this paper. Okay, earlier papers also we used to have questions with respect to IUCN, questions with respect to wildlife protection and all. Okay, so if you follow the current affairs, this was you can say under Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Indian flying fox is under vermin category itself. Okay, so what does this vermin category mean? It refers to animals that are considered pests and they can be legally hunted or controlled due to their perceived threat to the agriculture or public health or etc. So, under Wildlife Protection Act in India, there are certain species that were categorized as vermin. Okay, according to IUCN as well, Indian flying fox, it's a least concern cat. Least concern means you have good number of Indian flying fox. Okay, so you can see the first statement is correct here. Okay, so this is a vermin species. Then, the Indian flying fox feeds on the blood of other animals. Okay, so this was not a right statement. This wasn't correct. Okay, so only if there are it is a least concern animal. Least concern means it is having a good number of population is there. Okay, so and if it is little threat to agriculture or public health, it is kept under vermin. Okay, so vermin fox or sorry Indian flying fox feeds on bloods of other animals is not a right statement. Okay, so statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. So your answer is C here. Right? Let's go with another question. Right? 21st question. Right. So the organisms like cicada, froghopper, and pond staker are. So what kind of organisms are they? So they are basically insects. Okay, so froghopper, pond staker, cicada, they are kind of insects itself. Okay, so to have more information with respect to that, cicada is known as a loud buzzing, clicking, clicking noises, male insects which tries to attract the female insects. Okay, then froghoppers are known as spittle bugs. Okay, then coming to pond staker, they're all called as water striders. Okay, these are all comes under insect category itself. These are all insects, right? So that was your answer. 22nd question. So this is a statement based question. Let us go with the statements here. Many chewing gums found in the market are considered a source of environmental pollution. See how tricky the questions were. Generally, we understand that plastic bags, etc., were more a threat to environment, but many chewing gums are also. Okay, so this was a right statement. And many chewing gums contain plastic as a gum base. So that was the biggest concern these days. Okay, so both the statements are correct. So they have plastic as a gum base. So statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is correct, and also 2 explains statement 1. So it means you have both A and B are correct, both 1 and 2 are correct, and 2 explains A. Okay, so fine. So chewing gums are a little threat to our health as well. Fine. Let's go with another one. 23rd question. So this again, you can consider it as a geography question also. It is a part of environment also. Okay, fine. Let us go with the question. Consider the following pairs. Remember people, whenever you find such questions, always try to mark it whether they are asking correctly matched part or incorrectly matched part. Okay, so in this paper so far if you see they are asking the correctly matched pairs itself, but still there are chances of UPSC asking or confusing you, putting incorrectly matched as well. Fine, so you have to pick the correctly matched pairs. Fine, so you have countries, animals found in its natural habitat. Okay, now coming to Brazil. So there was an animal called Indri. The Indri is a large endangered lemur species. Okay, so basically this Indri is native to Madagascar. Okay, the island of Africa. You all knew Madagascar. Okay, so if it is a native to Madagascar, of course you can say animal is not found, its natural habitat will also be there in Madagascar, not in Brazil. So the first country or the pair is incorrectly matched. Then the second is Indonesia country and elk. Okay, elk is known as vipati, which is a native animal to Northern America. Okay, and in the parts of Eastern Asia. So it is more native to North America and Eastern Asia and all. So it's not a native animal or its natural habitat is not there in Indonesia. So second statement is incorrect. Now coming to the last one, Madagascar, and the animal here is bonobo. Okay, so bonobo is closely related to chimpanzees, okay, which are found in the forests of Congo River, okay, in the Congo region. They are not found in Madagascar, so Congo can be considered as a native place here. Okay, bonobo is a kind of chimpanzees. Okay, it's more having its natural habitat is more closer to Congo regions and not in the Madagascar. Okay, so in this way, they just want to confuse you people. Fine. So of course, I can consider if we were not following current affairs, or if you cannot recall them as well, you can consider this as little tougher question itself, more fact based question itself. Fine. So none of the options are correctly matched. So it's not Indri is not in Brazil, elk is not in Indonesia, and bonobo is not native to Madagascar. So none of the statement is correct. Okay, then now let us go with another question. Fine. 24th. Consider the following statements regarding World Toilet Organization. So you have three statements here. First one, it is one of the agencies of United Nations. Then the second one, World Toilet Summit, Toilet Day, Toilet Colleges are the initiatives of this organization to inspire action to tackle global sanitation crisis. Okay, the first statement, the second statement, then the third one. The main focus of its functions is to grant funds to least developed countries and developing countries to achieve the end of open defecation. Okay, so if you consider this particular part, only second statement is correct. This is also more like a current affair based question. Okay, so the World Toilet Organization is a agency. It's a global non-profitable organization. Okay, so it's not an agency part of UN. So it's a non-profitable organization. Then coming to the second statement, yes, they actually want to tackle the global sanitation crisis problem. So they have initiated World Toilet Summit, the Toilet College to World Toilet College. These are all the initiatives of this particular organization. So second statement is correct, right? Then coming to the third statement, their main focus, the focus of its function is to grant funds to least developed countries, developing countries to, to reach the end of open defecation is not a right one. Okay, it focuses on education. It focuses on promoting best practices of sanitation. It focuses more with respect to hygiene. Okay, they want to advocate for the improvement of sanitation globally, but they are not someone who are granting funds or something of that sort. So, 1 and 3 are incorrect statement. Again, this is more like a fact-based question. Okay, so option number 2 is the right answer for this. Okay, now let us go with another question. Fine. Okay, so consider the following statements. Which of the statements given above are correct? Again, we need to pick the correct answer. Okay, there is no confusion. There is correct statements which we have to pick. Now, coming to the first one, lions do not have a particular breeding season. If you see people, so far we have discussed around 24 questions, right? if you could see the questions that were given, you can easily understand most of the questions, are coming from the previous year concepts itself. So earlier, there were many questions with respect to climatology, like Coriolis force and all. Again, this year we got the question. There were questions with respect to Wildlife Protection Act, questions with respect to mapping, like countries bounding North Sea and all. So it means from the so-called 24 questions we have discussed, we can understand that understanding and practicing PYQs is the most important part of your prelims preparation. If you go through the previous year questions, if you go through the current affairs, and if you match the so-called contents that were asked, you can easily estimate what kind of questions UPSC can ask this year, isn't it? So earlier, there was a question with respect to elephants as well, the family of elephants, whether the female leading it or etc. etc. And here you can see the questions asked, question asked about lions, right? So there will be little similarity. The only thing is that you need to, tactically understand like what UPSC experts from expects from you, and you can, need to understand how important the previous year questions were. Okay, fine. Let's go with the statements here. Lions do not have a particular breeding season. Yes, that was right statement, because they don't have a strict breeding season. They can reproduce throughout the year. Okay, in some regions they may be peak in the births. In some areas they may not be. Okay, so in that manner, you cannot say only in this particular season is a breeding season for lions. Okay. See, for example, if you go to certain forest areas as well, they do not allow you in certain seasons. For example, for most of the animals, okay, in the tropical regions and all, June to September is a breeding season, they say, and they will not allow tourism activities there. Okay, so you must be aware of that. So in that manner, if you consider the breeding season of lions, they are not having a particular breeding season. Fine, let's go with the second statement. Unlike most other big cats like cheetah, cheetahs do not roar. Okay, this statement is again correct one. Okay, because cheetahs are the unique among the big cats that do not roar. Okay, they communicate through a variety of vocalizations like purring, growling, hissing, and all. They do not roar. Okay, it seems a little, funny for us, but still, yes, cheetahs do not roar. They generally, do some hissing sounds and all. Okay, so of course, this is a right statement. Then, unlike male lions, male leopards do not proclaim their territory by scent marking. So this is incorrect statement, because both male and female leopards use that marking, scent marking, to proclaim their territory. They do not move beyond that. They do not hunt beyond that. They mark their territories by spraying urine or rubbing their heads, okay, or bodies against the trees and bushes, scratches on the ground. Okay, so it means they also set their own home. They also set their own territories. Okay, fine. So it means what? Both male leopards and also male lions, male leopards and lions, both sets their territory. So the statement three is not correct. Okay. So what was your answer here? One and two are correct. Fine. So this was something which you need to understand. Then let's go with another question. Fine. Again, a current affair based question we have. Okay, so let's go with one. Which of the following is correct description of 100 million farmers? So basically, building farmer resilience for food security in support of transition to net zero and a positive food water systems by 2030 is a basic agenda of 100 million farmers. Okay, so they want to target that. Now, if you consider the statement, see, there are 2 points which are important with respect to 100 million farmers. One, it is to support, in support of transition of net zero and nature positive food and water systems. This is a major statement, and it is a farmer resilience for food security. These are the two things that you need to remember when 100 million farmers comes to your mind. So, with respect to that, if you go through the options, see the first one, it is a platform for accelerating transition towards food and water systems that are net zero carbon, then nature positive, and that it aims for farmer resilience. Okay, so with the knowledge that we have with respect to the 100 million farmers, first statements proves to be right. Okay, this is more, with the analysis, you can easily say that this is one thing which is a correct option, right? So 26 answer is E. Then next question. Consider the following. How many of the above are considered distributed energy resources? Okay, so basically, if you consider, okay, distributed energy resources, battery storage is one part of it. Biomass generators is a part of it. Fuel cells are a part of it. Rooftop solar photovoltaic units. See, this year, solar power or solar photovoltaic cells was there in news, isn't it? So there was a government subsidy, subsidy which is given for solar panels, isn't it? So that might be one reason for this question. This is the mostly a current affair based question. So if you consider distributed energy resources, battery storage, biomass generators, fuels, rooftop solar photovoltaic cells. So all the four are your answers. Okay, so that was what you can say there. Next question. Which one of the following shows a unique relationship with insects that has co-evolved with it, and that is only insect that can pollinate this particular tree? So basically, earlier in previous year questions, there were questions with respect to mahua, there were questions with respect to sandalwood. Okay, so that's the reason there was a sequence of questions that were asked with respect to that particular part. Okay, and coming to this particular question, fig tree is an answer. It's a the unique relationship is with the fig wasp. Okay, so this relationship is an example for mutualism. It means both gets benefited. Plus plus. Hope you remember in your environment you must have read about different relationships: mutualism, commensalism, predator, isn't it? So in that this particular fig tree and a fig wasp is a best example for mutualism. They were both benefit due to their interaction. Okay, so unique relationship with insect that has co-evolved with it, and only insect that can pollinate this particular tree. So fig tree and fig wasp, these both are basically in the mutualism. Okay, both gets benefited due to their interaction. So option number A is your answer, and this is an environment question, straight question as well. Then 29th question. Consider the following. How many of the above have poisonous species among them? Okay, so basically among butterflies, fishes and frogs, only two of them are poisonous. Okay, so among butterflies, fishes and frogs, the poisonous species are primarily frogs. Okay, while there are poisonous butterflies and fishes as well, frogs are more commonly associated with the toxicity due to their ability to secrete some toxins from their skin. So, frogs are poisonous species as well, and they're well known for their potent toxins as well. So, you can say if you consider poisonous species, butterflies, sorry, if you eliminate butterflies, you can say fishes and frogs. So there was a contradiction in this particular question. We can say only two species, because generally we have fishes and frogs which are more toxic in nature. Rarely you find butterflies being toxic. So in my point of view, I can say only fishes and frogs are poisonous species. Okay, so because there are butterflies are generally not so poisonous in nature. So if you eliminate that, you can say this. But most of the people might think that all the three are also poisonous. Fine. So in my view, B is the answer. Okay. Then 38th question. Consider the following spaces, the following parts, and how many of the above trees are actually native to India? This was again an interesting question. Right. Cashew. Okay. Cashew is not something which is native to India. It is basically brought by Portuguese. Not only cashews, they brought us potatoes, onions as well. Okay. So, fine. So, cashew is a native tree to Brazil. Okay, so it was introduced by Portuguese. Okay, they introduced in 16th century, and it is not widely cultivated in the coastal regions of India. Particular, it is now widely cultivated in coastal regions of eastern coast and western coast, like in Goa, Kerala, Karnataka, and all. Okay, now papaya. Papaya is more native to the regions of America in the southern Mexico. Okay, so you can say Mexico and Central America. Okay, and who brought this papaya? It is Spanish people who brought it. Okay, Spanish and Portuguese both together, you can say. So these people have brought us papaya. So it is not native to India. It is something which is bought from the Europeans. Then red sanders. Hope you all must have seen movies, isn't it? So, of course, Red Sanders is native to India. It is primarily found in the southern eastern Ghats. Okay, hope you all must have been, you all must be aware of Pushpa, right? So, most of the questions can be answered through the knowledge of movies as well. Anyway, jokes apart, fine. So red sanders are native to India. They are more native. They are present in Eastern Ghats, southern part of Eastern Ghats in Andhra Pradesh. They are known as rich red wood as well. They are very highly valued. Okay, so how many of the species are actually native to India? Only one is native to India. That is red sander. Apart from that, both of the other two are coming from other countries. Okay, fine. Let's go with another question. With reference to radioisotope thermoelectric 33 generators RTGs, consider the following statements. Okay, so basically there were three statements given. Let us go through them. Okay, first of all, RTGs means radioisotope thermoelectric. Okay, thermoelectric generators. They are miniature fission reactors. Okay, this is the first statement. Actually, if you consider RTGs, they are not fission reactors. They generate electricity through radioactive decay of radioactive isotopes, not by fission. So, first statement you can easily eliminate. The first is obviously wrong, okay? Because fission reactors operate through a controlled chain of reactions, nuclear fission, isn't it? Whereas RTGs use heat produced by the natural decay of radioactive materials. Okay, so it means it's not fission, so you can eliminate this. So this is incorrect statement. Then the second one, RTGs are used for powering the onboard systems of spacecrafts. Yes, this is the correct statement because RTGs have been widely used in space missions. They are reliable power source for spacecrafts, especially those traveling to areas where solar energy is insufficient. Okay, so outer planets, or if they're going to deep space, dark side of the celestial bodies, for all these particular things, RTGs are used for powering the onboard systems of the spacecraft. So you can say statement 2 is correct. Right. Then the third one. RTGs can use plutonium 233, which is a byproduct of weapon development. Yes, this is also a right statement because plutonium 238 is a common fuel for RTGs. Okay, it is not same as plutonium 239, which is used in nuclear weapons. Okay, hope you understand the difference. Okay, so 2 and 3 are right statements here. So obviously with the first statement itself, you can answer this question. If you eliminate one, your answer is B itself. Okay, but for the information, I'm just letting you know. Okay, fine. So that is 31st question. Now, let us go with 32nd question. Okay, so this is again a SND question with respect to stars. See, it's been many years that UPSC have asked questions with respect to cosmic objects. Certain questions were there earlier, of course, due to the current affairs and all. It's been a very long time that UPSC asked such questions of this particular sort. Like giant stars live much longer than dwarf stars, because when we start geography lessons, we start talking about our solar system. We'll talk about many cosmic objects like what is a planet, what is a dwarf star, what is a giant star, what is a star cycle. What was the reason behind the formation of solar system, planets, and all. If you have that basic knowledge, of course, this question becomes a little easier for us. Okay, fine. Let's go with the question. Giant stars. So if you go through the star cycle, there are different stages of stars according to the size of the star. So giant stars does not live longer when compared to dwarf stars. Dwarf stars means which are lesser in size. Okay, so if you consider our sun, it is an average star in the whole universe. Now then imagine a giant star. Okay, they doesn't live longer than dwarf stars. So statement 2 is incorrect. Okay, so what statement 1 is incorrect? I'm so sorry. So statement 1 is incorrect. So it means these two options you can easily eliminate. So our answer is of course D here. Because statement 1 is obviously incorrect. Okay, giant star does not live longer, which is a basic thing that we need to know. Then let's go with the second statement as well. Compared to dwarf stars, giant stars have a greater rate of nuclear reactions. Yes. What is nuclear reaction that happens in the star? Leading to the formation of helium. Why does a star glow? Why stars are self-luminous, guys? Because of this particular reaction itself, the nuclear reaction. Hydrogen and hydrogen combine to form helium, which actually emits heat and light. That's the reason our sun is burning, isn't it? Our sun glows. It is self-luminous, whereas planets were not, isn't it? So, of course, a dwarf star compared to a giant star will have a lesser rate, whereas giant stars will have greater rate of nuclear fission. That's the reason they have grown in size, isn't it? So, statement 2 is a correct statement. Okay, giant stars have higher masses, higher temperatures in their cores, leading to more nuclear fusion reactions, to be more precise. Okay, it means I'm so sorry. It means you can easily understand the statement 2 here is correct. Okay. The increased rate of nuclear reaction is why they exhaust their nuclear fuel. Okay, and they actually die quickly. The stars are like the giant stars die quickly because of this so-called rate of nuclear reactions itself. More rate of nuclear reactions leads to the stars to die. Okay, so that's the reason they doesn't live longer. So statement 2 is correct. Whereas statement 1 is wrong. So your answer is D. Now, let us go with another question. Which of the following is synthesized in human body that dilates blood vessels and increases the blood flow? So, if you go through the biology textbooks of class 12, okay, your NCRTs, there you can easily find this information. So, what was it? It was nitric oxide. Okay, nitric oxide NO is something which is synthesized by human body that dilates your blood vessels and increases your blood flow. So the substance that's synthesized in a human body, to dilate blood vessels is your nitric oxide. So option A is correct. Now, to have more information, nitric oxide is a crucial molecule in human body. It's known for its role of vasodilation, and it is synthesized in endothelial cells. Okay, which is like a lining of your blood vessels. It helps in increasing the blood flow. Okay, so it also helps in your cardiovascular health. Okay, So again, this is a very basic question straight away from your NCRT. Then next, go with 34th. We'll go with another question, 34th one. Consider the following activities. In how many of the above activities can the radars be used? Okay, so what is a radar? Radar detection and ranging, isn't it? So let us go with the options here. Radars are basically, used in various purposes. Okay, in fact, if you consider the weather detection, it is done by radars itself. Now, identification of narcotics on passengers at airports or in the aircraft. Does radar identify it? No. Radars are not typically used for finding narcotics. Okay, this task is usually performed by X-ray scanners, drug sniffing dogs, okay, or chemical detection methods and all. But radar doesn't have an application there. Okay, they doesn't identify narcotics. So statement one is incorrect. Then monitoring the precipitation, of course, as I told you earlier, the radars are used for weather forecasting and all. Weather radars we call. They're widely used in monitoring precipitation, detecting the intensity, movement, type of precipitation, if there is cyclone and all. Okay, so of course, monitoring precipitation is the right one. Then tracking the migration of animals. Yes, radars can be used for tracking migration of animals, especially birds. Okay, wildlife researchers recently used radar technology to study the so-called movement patterns of migratory species. So, yeah, radars can be used for tracking migration of animals, particularly birds, because this was something which is done in the recent days. Okay, so in this particular manner, you can understand only two of the above activities can be done through radars. Okay. So, if you see people, if you have prepared science and tech, environment and geography, which are basic subjects for your preparation, along with your polity and economy, you could have greater chances of clearing prelims as well. Okay, with this particular paper. Chalo, let's go with another question. 35th question. Consider the following aircraft. So, how many of the above are considered fifth generation fighter aircrafts? So, basically, if you consider, fifth generation fighter aircrafts, they are designed with advanced capabilities. Like they includes the stealth technology. Hope you are aware of it. Stealth technology has helped to not to detect our radar or our fighters at by other people, right? Stealth technology, advanced avionics, okay, high high advanced equipments were there. Network data fusion, there are many what do you say advanced capabilities for that fifth generation aircrafts. So if you have gone through the current affairs, if you have seen the news, the examples of fifth generation fighter aircrafts are Martin F-22 Raptor, then Martin F-35 Lightning II, then Sukhoi Su. There are many. Okay, so Changdu. There is another one called Sheang. Okay, so these are all some fifth generation examples. Whereas coming to this particular part, Rafale or MiG-29, Tejas Mk1, they are not a part of it. They are not fifth generation aircraft. If you consider Rafale, it was a French twin engine. Okay, so it is considered as 4.5 generation aircraft, not the fifth generation. MiG it is considered. It is also not considered as a fifth. It is fourth generation aircraft. Then coming to Tejas Mk, it is a single engine, multi-role, lighter, light fighter, but it is classified under fourth generation. So, what are all the fifth generation aircrafts we have? Martin F-22 Raptor, then Martin F-35 Lightning II, then Sukhoi Su, okay, then Chengdu. This is a Chinese stealth fighter which is developed. Okay, then you have Shenyang. See, the reason that we were providing information because there are chances of asking similar kind of questions in the next year's papers as well if these particular things were there in news. Fine. So all of them or not fifth generation. So what's your answer? It is D. Okay, so 35th question, option is D. Let's go with another one. 36. In which of the following are hydrogels used? Select a correct answer. C. Correct answer is us. But see, the reason why I'm what do you say underlining this particular word, because there are many instances where UPSC asks us to pick the incorrect ones. Fine. So make this habit of underlining those keywords. Remember, people, if you have this habit of doing some work on your paper, it means underlining things that were there asking, underlining what is the demand of the question. This makes you to answer your paper with a more ease, because in your examination, hope you have experienced the same today as well, you will run short of time because you need to pick the answer, you need to bubble them. Okay, and you need to think also in between. You should switch between the subjects as well. If you inculcate this habit of underlining those particular things, it becomes a little easier. That's what I usually tell most of our students as well. Fine. Coming to the question, which of the following are hydrogels? Controlled drug delivery in patients. Yes, hydrogels are widely used in the biomedical field. Okay, for controlled drug delivery systems. Okay, they can release drugs at a controlled rate over a period of time, so making them little effective. Okay, during medical treatments and all. So option number one is correct. Then micro air conditioning systems. See, hydrogels do not have any application here because they are not used commonly in the mobile air conditioning systems. Air conditioning systems typically use refrigerators, compressors, evaporators. Okay, so they use that. Compressors are used. For example, in your air conditioners in your home as well, you find refrigerants, and you will find some evaporators. You will find some compressors. You do not have hydrogels there. So second statement is incorrect. Then the third one, preparation of industrial lubricants. Here also hydrogels are not used. Okay, because lubricants are usually made up of oils, okay, greases, okay, and other substances to reduce the friction, isn't it? That's what is the function of lubricant, to reduce the friction. Okay, so that not from it cannot be said that it is formed out of hydrogen. You use oil basically, greases and all, not hydrogens. So the only application where you use hydrogels is in your drug delivery in the patients, controlled drug delivery. Okay, so option number A is your right answer. 36th answer is A. Let's go with another question. Which of the following is exhaust pipe emission from fuel cell electric vehicles powered by hydrogen? So basically, fuel cell electrical vehicles FCEVs are powered by hydrogen. How is it produced? With the help of water as a byproduct. Okay, with the help of electrochemical reaction between hydrogen and oxygen. So what will be your answer? So the hydrogen fuel cell, okay, the fuel cell electric vehicles powered by hydrogen generally have water vapor. Okay, so this is what something which is exhausted pipe emissions from the fuel cell electric vehicles. Okay, fine. Water vapor is your answer. Let's go with another question. 38. Recently, the term pumped storage hydropower is actually and approximately discussed in the context of which of the following? This again is a current affair question. Pump storage hydropower, it is a kind of method of storing and managing energy. Okay, particularly in the electricity generation and in the grid stability and all. So it involves pumping water from a lower elevation reservoir to a higher elevation reservoir. So with the so-called knowledge that you have with respect to pump storage hydropower, the answer here is they are actually used for long duration energy storage. Because pump storage hydropower is not related to irrigation of traced crop fields. So it is not something which is related to cereal crops or lift irrigation. It is not at all concerned with what do you say called rainwater harvesting. So what is pumped storage of hydropower? It is something which is which is used to store and manage the energy. That much of knowledge is important, sufficient to answer this question. So your answer is C. So sorry. The answer is C here. Long duration energy storage. Okay. Now let's go with another question. 39th question. Membrane bioreactors are often discussed in the context of. See, people from the science and technology as well, if you consider, okay, there are many questions which were more basic in nature and more connected to current affairs. Fine. Now, coming to membrane bioreactors, okay, so they are a combination of conventional biological treatment process with membrane filters. Okay, in these systems, microorganisms break down into organic matter. The membranes filter out of the so-called contaminants, producing high-quality, effluent, suitable materials which are, used for discharge, and they are also used for reuse purposes and all. Okay, so membrane bioreactors are more concerned with removing the pathogens, organic matter. So what does they do? They remove the pathogens, they remove the organic matter, the pollutants and all. So how is it connected? To which of the particular context it is connected? Is it reproductive technologies? No, because it is removing pathogens. Is it drug delivery nanotechnologies? Of course not. Vaccination production? No. Wastewater treatment technologies. Okay. So, till here, we have seen the questions of geography, environment, science and technology, and also some questions with respect to biology, biotechnology as well, which means you can consider this as a general science category questions. Fine. Now, moving forward, we'll see questions coming from other subjects. So, from here, we'll be seeing the questions coming from economy. Okay, fine. With reference to Indian economy, collateral borrowing and lending obligations are the instruments of. See, people, in your economy, you must be learning about SEBI and share market, right? So there'll be bond market, forex market, money market, stock market as well. So generally, collateral borrowing and lending obligations, okay, which is called as CBLO, is more associated with money market. It's a money market instrument, okay, which allows people to borrow and lend funds against collateral. What is collateral? For example, when RBI or when bank lends from RBI, okay, bank wants money from RBI. What it will keep? It will put G6 as collaterals, isn't it? When an individual borrows something from bank, they will keep some asset as a security. That is nothing but collateral. So collateral borrowing, okay, and lending obligations is more connected to money market. This instrument facilitates short-term liquidity management. Fine. So money market is your answer. Let's go with another question. The total fertility rate, basically, this question I can say it's more, what do you say, amalgamation of economy and geography as well. Because in geography also, we have something called economic geography. We'll be learning about population, we'll be learning about fertility rate, etc., etc. Why this particular things were there in news? So there were some aspects going on with respect to delimitation. There's some aspects which were going on with respect to population of India and all. So maybe in that context, this question must have been framed. Fine. Let's go with the question. The total fertility rate in an economy is defined as. So it's more a generic, what do you say, definition. What is total fertility rate? It is nothing but the average number of live births as a woman would have by the end of her childbearing age. Okay, so total fertility rate we say. So the average number of live births a woman would have by the end of her childbearing age. The number of children born per thousand people in population, that's not total fertility rate. Number of children born to a couple in their lifetime, no. A birth rate minus death rate, no. These are all not the proper explanation of total fertility rate. So it is a demographic measure, guys, to estimate the average number of children, okay, that a woman could bear. Of course, the answer is D here. Let's go with another question. Consider the following statements. In India, non-banking financial companies can access liquidity adjustment facility window of Reserve Bank of India. Fine, this is again a more basic question. So if you go through the banking systems, okay, so you must have read about evolution of the bank. In banking systems, we have different instruments, isn't it? You must have learned about liquidity adjustment facilities, repo rate, reverse repo rate, or marginal standing. There are many instruments in order to have some liquidity adjustments in the bank. So quantitative tools, qualitative tools. You must have learned about all these things, right? And you also must have learned about NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, isn't it? There is a difference between NBFCs and banks as well. Fine. This again draws back you to the basics of economy. So in the whole paper, guys, I'm again repeating, every question demands the deeper knowledge of the subject, whether it's a geography question or economy question or a current affair based question. And the good part here is that Susan Academy actually focuses more upon the basics as well. Okay, so I think most of the questions of geography comes from the class notes of general studies, because we deal them from basic part. Most of the questions of economy also I could see, I have seen the economy notes as well. So they are all something which is basic in nature. So it means if you would have prepared properly general studies with respect to NCRTs and the basics part, you can easily answer these questions. Okay. Fine. I hope most of the Susan Academy students must have answered these questions well. Okay. Fine. In India, okay, statement number one. Okay. So, statement number two, if you consider in India, foreign institutional investors can hold government securities, GSECs. And in India, stock exchanges can offer separate trading platforms for debts. Now, coming to the first statement, in India, NBFCs cannot access the liquidity adjustment facility. It is banks which can have this particular window, because in banks itself we have tools, right, with respect to liquidity adjustment like repo rate, reverse repo rate, SLR, CRR, etc. So the liquidity adjustment facility of Reserve Bank is primarily accessible to scheduled commercial banks and primary dealers. NBFCs do not generally have direct access. Okay, so they are refinancing agents, we call them, isn't it? So for that, if you know that information as well, you can easily say first statement is incorrect. Then coming to the second one, in India, foreign institutional investors can hold G6. Yes, they can. Foreign institutional investors are allowed to invest in the G6. Okay, but they are subject to certain limits. They will be subject to some regulatory guidelines, but it doesn't have any, we cannot say that they cannot hold. So, of course, second statement is correct. Then, stock exchanges can offer separate trading platforms for debts. Yes, Indian stock exchanges, for example, you have Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange. They offer separate trading platforms for debt securities like corporate bonds, government securities, and all. So, this again a basic question coming from the conceptual part of economy. So 2 and 3 are the right statements here. The correct answer is D. 43. In India, which of the following can trade in 45? Okay, what? Let us go with the question. Corporate 45 dot corporate bonds and government securities. So select the correct answer here. Fine. So, in this question, if you consider, insurance companies are major institutional investors that can invest in corporate bonds and government securities. So, you can say insurance companies, can trade in corporate bonds in government securities. Then, We have pension funds. Pension funds can also invest in corporate bonds and government securities. Then the third one is retail investors. They can also participate in the market of corporate bonds and all. Okay. So direct purchases, for example, most of us have demat accounts, right? So it means what? They can actually invest in this particular platforms. They can invest in mutual funds. They can invest in many other securities as well. So I can say this is a more generic question. So insurance companies, pension funds, retail investors, they all can trade in the corporate bonds. Okay, one, two, and three. So this is what your answer is. So let's go with another one. Consider the following statements: ETFs, motor vehicles, and currency swap. Fine. These again are more basic concepts of economy. Which of the above considered as financial instruments? Okay, so what is exchange traded funds? They are financial instruments, of course, yes. They are investment funds traded on stock exchange. Okay, much like stocks, you can say. So ETF holds assets like stocks, commodities, bonds, and they generally operate with a proper mechanism designed to keep trading close to the net asset value. So, of course, financial instrument means you can say ETF. Then motor vehicles. Are they a financial instrument? No. They are basically physical assets. They are not financial instruments, they are physical assets. And they can be considered as tangible personal property. So this is not a financial instrument. Then currency swap. Yes, it is a financial instrument because they are a derivative contracts through which two parties exchange the principal and interest in different currencies. Okay, so it means you can say currency swap is again a financial instrument. So ETF is a financial instrument, currency swap is financial, but not motor vehicles. So what was your answer? One and three. So option number D is your right answer. Let's go with another one. See, if you see the economy questions also, guys, these are also more basic in nature, isn't it? With reference to the sectors of Indian economy, consider the following pairs. Economic activity is given and the sector is given. Okay, so this particular question can be answered if you have gone through 6th standard NCRT. Okay, so sixth standard NCRT will have which of those particular what do you say economic activities comes under primary, secondary. So you will be having mining in primary sector as well because mining is something. See, what is a primary sector in the economy, which is straight away from the nature like mining, agriculture. Secondary sector is something which depends on primary sector. Say for example, an iron and steel industry. Okay, it's a secondary sector. Then tertiary sector is more a services, isn't it? Transportation, etc. So these are the basic categories which we know. This is again a basic question you can say. Now, coming to storage of agricultural produce. See, the economic activity of agriculture comes under primary sector, whereas the storage of agricultural produce, storage means you're providing some service, right? So it's a service provided to the farmers and the agricultural supply chains. So this includes warehouses. So storage of agriculture products means warehouses, okay, or cold storage facilities and all. So can I consider it as a secondary sector? No, secondary sector means remember it is a heavy industries, right? So this is tertiary sector, not secondary. So first is a wrong match. Then the second one, daily farm. Dairy farm, sorry. Okay, so dairy farm straight away comes from the nature, right? So you will raise the livestock, you will bring the so-called milk, the milk is produced, and this is a part of primary sector itself, which includes activities related to extraction, harvesting of the natural products and all. So straight away from the nature, remember it is primary sector. Then mineral exploration. Mineral exploration means you are doing some activity from the nature. You know, you are extracting something from the nature. You're not, what do you say, processing it. You're exploring them. So mining, isn't it? So mining kind of activities means you can simply say it is primary itself. Okay, so mineral exploration involves search of mineral deposits, extraction of mineral deposits. This is active, this is a part of the primary sector itself, mining, quarrying. So it's a primary sector, not tertiary sector. So third is a wrong match. Then weaving a cloth. Is it a service? Of course not. So tertiary sector it is not. Is it a heavy industry? No. So how can you say whether it is primary or secondary? Remember, primary means straight away it should come from the nature. Here you are weaving a cloth, you're making a product of it, isn't it? So weaving a cloth means it is under manufacturing something. So of course, it is a secondary sector. Do not get confused with it. Okay, it's a manufacturing activity. Of course, it is not a big iron and steel industry which uses heavy machinery, etc., etc. But there is some manufacturing that is happening here. So you can consider it as the so-called finished good cloth as a product of secondary sector itself. Okay, so how many of the above pairs are correctly matched? Again, we should mark this particular thing because if it is incorrectly matched, our answer goes wrong. So, how many of them are correctly matched? Only two. Fine. Only two is your answer. So, storage of agriculture is a service. So, I must say it is service. So, tertiary sector. Dairy farm is correct. Weaving a cloth is a correct secondary sector. Fine. Let's go with another question. Consider the following minerals: agricultural residues, corn grain, wastewater treatment sludge, wood mill waste. Which of the above can be used as feedstock for producing sustainable aviation fuel? See how trickily they asked. Basically, all of them. Agriculture residues can be used, corn grain can be used, wastewater treatment sludge can be used, wood mill waste can also be used. So something which is generally considered as threat to environment, pollution to environment, you can actually use them. Okay, feedstock, they can be used for producing sustainable aviation fuel. Okay, like if you consider agriculture residues, your crop waste, okay, they can be used for biofuels. Okay, then corn grain, if you consider, they can be used for bioethanol production. Corn grain can be used for bioethanol production. Then wastewater treatment sludge, it is processed to extract biogas, biofuels. So that is an option. Then wood mill waste, like sawdust, wooden chips. Okay, they can all be converted into biofuels. Okay, so all the things, if you consider, they are all helping for sustainable aviation fuel. So one, two, three, four, all the four materials are a right option here. 47th question. Again, match the following here. With reference to the physical capital in India, 49, India 49 dot economy, consider the following pairs. See, uh, here there are certain items that were given and category that was given. Again, this is a question straight away coming from class 6 NCRT. Okay, so here we have different types of categories: physical capital, or so working capital, fixed capital, and only two options were given: working capital, fixed capital. Now, basically, if you consider, there are certain categories of capital, certain types of capital we have. First among them is physical capital, which refers to man-made goods that were used in the production of other goods. Okay, so these assets are essential for various economic activities. For example, if you consider farmer's plow, okay, it is basically a fixed capital. Why? Because it is durable asset, it long lasts repeatedly, it can be used for many production cycles in agricultural purposes. Okay, it's a piece of equipment that facilitates production process and not consuming for the single use. So such kind of capitals are called as fixed capitals. So first option is wrong. Okay, it's not working capital, it's a fixed capital. Working capital means, for example, yarn used here. Okay, yarn used by a weaver, you call it as a working capital. Okay, so it means because the raw material is consumed here, right, for the production process. When it is consumed, you call it as working capital. You can remember like that as well. Fine. Now coming to this particular part, farmer's plow is not a working capital because it doesn't consume. It is multiple times you can use it, so it's a fixed capital. Then a computer, of course, it's a fixed capital because you can it is considered as fixed capital as long as it has a proper use. Okay, business operations, data processing, communication and all, right? So this is the right one. Then coming to yarn used by weaver, as I told you, it's not a fixed capital, it's a working capital because the yarn is being consumed during the production process. So it is used up during the production cycle. It needs to be replenished regularly. So it's a working capital. Then coming to petrol. What kind of capital? It is a fixed capital. Of course not. It's a working capital. Sorry. So it has given working capital itself. So it is consumed input used to power the vehicles and all. So which of the above pairs are correctly matched? Computer is a fixed capital. Petrol is a working capital. So both of them are correct. Whereas farmer's plow is fixed and yarn is a working capital. This is something which is given wrong. So only two pairs is correct. So B is your right answer. Fine. Now. Fine. This is again a current affair based SNT and economy, both SNT based question I can say. Let's go with the question first. Which of the following words or phrases is most appropriately used to denote a interoperable network of 3D virtual worlds that can be accessed simultaneously by millions of users who can exert property rights over virtual items? Nothing but metaverse, isn't it? Okay, so it means to have a proper explanation for this particular thing. First of all, this question is a current affair based question itself. What does this term metaverse mean? It refers to collective virtual shared space, okay, which was created by convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality. So, in that manner, if you consider, the proper explanation of this particular phrase is nothing but metaverse itself. They are actually describing metaverse itself. To give you more information with respect to metaverse, it encompasses an interoperable network of course, 3D virtual worlds where users can interact with a computer generated environment. In metaverse, users can own, they can buy, they can sell virtual items, exerting property rights over them. This concept is becoming increasingly popular with the rise of virtual reality, okay, blockchain technology and all. So in that context, you can say this particular one is your answer. So current affairs and basics. This is something which is a summary of this particular paper, I can say. So with the help of so-called questions that we have discussed, if you see every question is more basic in nature, or is it a fact or a current affair based question, isn't it? Fine. 49th question. With reference to the rule or rules imposed by Reserve Bank of India while treating foreign banks, consider the following statements. So, first one. There is no minimum capital requirement for wholly owned bank subsidiaries in India. This is, of course, not a right statement. Why? Because RBI has already established a minimum capital requirement. Because banks should not go to crisis, right? The institution should not go to crisis. As per RBI rules, a wholly owned subsidiary, okay, of a foreign bank in India must have minimum paid up voting equity capital of 500 crores. So it means there is a limit. There is a minimum capital which is requirement that is there. So first statement is not wrong. Sorry, is incorrect. Okay. Then the second one. For wholly owned bank subsidiaries in India, at least 50% of the board members should be Indian nationals. No, this is also not correct for the foreign banks because according to RBI regulations, a bank in India should be independent, should have independent directors. There is no specific requirement that 50% of them should be Indian and all. Okay, there are requirements for board composition to ensure proper governance and proper management. There are what do you say regulations with respect to board composition, but there was no such limit like 50% should be Indian nationals. So both the statements are incorrect here. Now, what was the question here? Which of the following statements are correct? So you have to pick the right one. So neither of them is correct. Both are incorrect. Now let us go with the 50th question. With reference to corporate social responsibility rules in India, consider the following statements. Fine. Let us evaluate them. CSR rules specify that expenditures that benefit the company directly or its employees will not be considered as CSR activities. This is a correct statement because according to CSR rules under Companies Act 2013, expenditure that exclusively benefit the employees of the company and their families, they are all not considered under CSR activity, and CSR activity should primarily benefit the broader community. Okay, it should not be aimed at benefiting the company directly or its employees or employee families directly. So yes, statement 1 is correct. Rules specify that expenditure that benefit directly or its employees, they should not be considered as CSR activity. Yes, it is correct statement. Then the second one, CSR rule do not specify minimum spending on CSR activity. No, this was a wrong statement. They do specify minimum spending. Okay, because according to the Company Acts 2013, it mandates that companies meeting certain criteria, like such as net worth. If they are having 500 crores of net worth or turnover of 1,000 crores, okay, or a net profit of 5 crore or more during the financial year, they're at least required to spend 2% of their average net profits of the preceding 3 years on CSR activities. So there is a minimum spending which is required. So what was your answer here? Only one is correct. Fine. Right, everyone. So far we have discussed half of the paper. We'll take 10 minutes break and we'll just continue with the other questions. So far we have covered all geography questions, environment questions, and science and tech and economy questions. And here we are discussing set A paper. I hope you understand by now. So now let us take some break and we'll continue after a few minutes. Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. So let us discuss from 51st question from now. Okay, right. So 51st question. Again, this is a question with respect to Indian economy. Let us consider the statements here. Okay. If the United States of America were to default on its debt, holders of the US Treasury bonds will not be able to exercise their claims to receive the payment. Okay, this was the first statement. The statement number two is US government debt is not backed by any hard assets but only by faith of the government. Fine. This is again a trickiest part of the question. Here, with respect to India, the norms are little different. But with respect to US, if if USA were to default on its debt, okay, so if people of USA, it meant that government would fail to meet its obligation to pay the interest and principals on US Treasury bonds. Okay, so it means bond holders would not be able to receive their payments as per the schedule. So it means what you can say statement number one is correct. Then statement number two. The US government debt is not backed by any hard asset, but only by the faith of the government. Yes, this is also a right statement because statement two again explains statement one. Okay, in a manner. Why? Because US government debt, they are not backed by assets, they are more, by the faith of the government. Okay, a default would erode the trust, leading to inability of the bondholders to exercise their claims and all. So it means you can easily understand if you understand statement number two, it actually explains statement number one, and of course both the statements are correct. Okay, so both one and two statements are correct, and two explains two statement two explains one. So that's what your answer is. Okay, fine. Let's go with another question. 52nd. Fine. Which of the following is a correct with respect to the above statements? There are two statements given. So, syndicated lending spread the risk of borrower defaults across the multiple lenders. Okay, so syndicated lending spreads the risk of borrower default across the multiple lenders. Yes, this is a right statement. How syndicated lending involves multiple lenders. Okay, multiple lenders means, of course, usually it will be banks only. Okay, coming together to provide a large loan to a borrower. It means it helps to spread a risk of default among the participating lenders. Yes, rather than concentrating on the single lender. So syndicated lending, of course, it spreads the risk. So I can say statement one is correct. Statement two. Okay. Statement number two. The syndicated loan can be a fixed amount or lump sum of funds, but cannot be a credit line. Yes, this is an incorrect statement. Why indicate, syndicated loans can be structured as fixed amounts. Okay, because the revolving credit facility is a type of credit line that allows the borrower to repay, to redraw the loans. Okay, similar to the so-called credit card. So it means syndicated loans can be structured, can be structured in a credit line. So you can say that the second statement here he has given it cannot be structured in credit line is not a right statement. So because it can be structured, okay, either as a fixed amount or in a credit line. In both the ways it can be structured. So statement two is incorrect. So what will be your answer? One is correct and statement number two is incorrect. So that's what your answer is. Now let's go with another one. 53rd question. Consider the following statements in respect of digital rupee. Okay, so There are many a times where people basically, UPSC have asked questions from the basics part. Okay, so basic part means with respect to money, with respect to banking, and here in this paper as well, you can see most of the questions coming from that itself. Okay, fine. When you look into the evolution of money from the barter system to the so-called barter systems to the so-called what do you say cryptocurrency these days, there are various stages of money evolution, right? Now, this was a question with respect to digital rupee. Okay, fine. What is a digital rupee? It is intended to serve as a sovereign currency. Okay, sovereign currency issued by RBI. Okay, it is aligned with the monetary policy itself. Fine. So that was first thing that you need to understand with respect to digital rupee. Now go with the statements here. Here we need to pick the correct statements. Okay, the first one. It is sovereign currency issued by Reserve Bank of India in alignment with the monetary policy, of course. Yes, it is. So digital rupee does have this particular alignment with RBI. Okay, then what was the second statement? It appears as a liability on the RBI's balance sheet. The digital rupee is a liability for RBI because it represents an obligation to the holder, like physical currency. It is a part of currency in the circulation, isn't it? So, of course, in the RBI balance sheets, it is a liability itself. So, second statement is correct. Then, what was the third statement? It is insured against the inflation by its very design. Of course, it is not. Because it is unlike your physical currency itself. So it is not insured, against the inflation. So digital rupee, like any other form of currency which was issued by central bank, it is not inherently insured against inflation, guys. Okay, so that is more a basic statement. Then the fourth one. The digital rupee is designed to be freely convertible against the commercial bank cash and money, ensuring its functions seamlessly along existing the form, in so-called currency. Okay, it is freely convertible. Yes or no? Don't you convert your digital currency into a physical currency, isn't it? So, one is correct, two is correct, four is correct. So, option number D is your answer. Okay, fine. Let's go with another question. 54. So till question number 53, we have economy questions. I think we have a good amount of economy questions, and that too very basic in nature. Okay, so we didn't get any questions with respect to budget, economic survey. I don't find any basically, but they appears more like basic questions here. Okay, fine. Let's go with the 54th questions with reference to ancient India. So this from here we'll start, solving the ancient history questions. Okay, with reference to ancient India, Gautama Buddha was generally known by which of the following epithets? See, there are three particular epithets were given. Okay, um, Nayaputta, Sakyamuni, and Tathagata. See, Sakyamuni, if you consider, in your, what do you say, NCRTs as well, in your basics of ancient history as well, you will be referring Gautam Buddha as Sakyamuni, isn't it? He belongs to the so-called clan. So Sakyamuni is a title often used to refer Gautam Buddha, who is the founder of Buddhism. It means the sage of so-called Sakya. Gautam Buddha belongs to Sakya clan, isn't it? So Sakyamuni, it emphasizes his lineage. Okay, so of course, this is obviously correct. Then Tathagata. It is another title used in Buddhism. Particularly, Gautam Buddha actually refers to himself as Tathagata. Okay, so the third one is also correct. Now, coming to Nayaputta, it is a term from Pali, from the ancient Indian texts, which translates a newly coming or newcomer. So, in Buddhism, Nayaputta means it refers to someone who has newly entered monkhood. Okay, in the monastery community, here someone who has entered monkhood. Okay, so Nayaputta means somebody who's new to the Sangha, you can say. So this is not something which refers to Gautam Buddha. Sakyamuni, of course, everybody knows, Tathagata, but not the Nayaputta. It is somebody who's newborn, not newborn, sorry, newcomer to the monastery. So What was your answer? Your answer will be 2 and 3 only. So these are the two names referred to Gautam Buddha. And remember, guys, earlier in previous year questions, there was there were many instances where questions are asked from Buddhism and Jainism, like questions with respect to the future Buddha, questions with respect to Avalokeshvara, and the different forms of worship of Buddha, and also always these are the crucial topics of your ancient history. And if you go through the ancient history, your IBC becomes most important, and then the Buddhism, Jainism becomes very much crucial. Okay, obviously you can expect questions from that part. And again, these questions are from NCERTs itself. Okay, fine. Let's go with the second question, 55th question. Okay, 55, question number 55. We have archaeological site, state, and description. See, these are something which we generally study in your ancient history, because whenever you go through ancient history, we'll start with Stone Age, IVC, Vedic period, and then Mahajanpadas, and then Buddhism, Jainism, or till Harsha, if you consider. In every single period, the so-called archaeological sites plays a very important role. Earlier, it was IVC sites which were, many a time seen in previous year questions. Now there were many other, or what do you say, sites which were given, because there were many new explorations that were happening. Basically, in your ancient history as well, with respect to recent explorations, I can say that you have to update yourself as well. So earlier, if you go to R.S. Sharma, there you will find, some particular site as the largest IVC site. But the later excavations have proved that yes, IVC people have more advanced technologies. IVC people does use cosmetics. They have a bigger site, so where they have done trading activities. Okay, so there are many new explorations coming. So it means ancient history is also getting updated with the help due to technology. Right, fine. That's another part which we need to discuss in the class. Fine. Now coming to the archaeological site. So you have four archaeological sites which were given here. So among them, Imangaon, everybody knows, guys. Imangaon is in Maharashtra. It is a Chalcolithic site. Okay, so Chalcolithic site means this is the age where people started learning more new things. Okay, so fine. Then then we have Mangadu, which is there in Kerala. Again, it's a megalithic site. It's the most important megalithic site, I can say. So, megalithic means bigger tools for lithic represents stones. Megalithic, like bigger stones were used by the ancient people, isn't it? So that's megalithic age, and this so-called Mangadu is the most important megalithic site in the southern India. Okay. Then coming to Salihundam, this is not a site, this is not a correct match. Okay, this archaeological site of Andhra, or rock cut cave shrines, this is not something which is concerned with it. And the first option is also not correctly matched. Okay, saying that Chandragutra, Odisha, trading port town. No, these are two incorrectly matched things. So what are the two correct options here? 2 and 3. Mangaon and Mangadu. Okay, then let's go with another one. 56th question. Which of the following rulers of the medieval India gave permission to Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal? Okay, so it was Krishna Dev Raya who have given the permission to Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal. Okay, so it's again a straight question which you can answer. Okay, so these are some ancient history questions. Now, so here is again a modern India question. Of course, modern India also plays a significant role in your prelims part. It is having its good, it is having a good weightage. Now let's go with the question. With reference to the revenue collection by Cornwallis, consider the following statements. So we have different systems, right? So we have permanent settlement system, Raitwari, Mahalwari. These are the systems that actually brought crisis, isn't it? This is something which has agitated the people. This is something which has shown the real pictures of British rule, isn't it? Fine. Now coming to Raitwari system, the revenue collection by Cornwallis. Let us just go with this particular statements. Under Raithwari systems of revenue collection, the peasants were exempted from revenue payment in the case of bad harvests and natural calamities. That was one thing, which shows that the system is little better compared to the permanent settlement, where there the people have to pay 1/10 of this, 10 by 11 parts of the so-called collection should be given to the British people, isn't it? That was permanent settlement. Then we got this Raithawari, right, later. So in Raithawari system, the principle of variable assessment did indeed provide some reliefs to the peasants. Okay, so it means the so-called provisions exempt from the revenue payment for the people, if they have some calamities or bad harvests and all. So yes, statement number one is correct. Then statement number two. Under permanent settlement system, again, this is Jamindari system. Under permanent settlements in Bengal, if Jamindar failed to pay his revenues to the state or on before the fixed date, he would be removed from his Jamindari. Basically, if a Jamindar fails to pay a stipulated revenue to the British government on or before the fix, what is this Jamindari system? It's like, they actually assign a Jamindar to a particular part and they have to collect the taxes. Okay. And what do you say called? They acts like a middleman in order to collect the taxes and all, isn't it? So they will be conducting some auction so that the jamindar with a higher auction will get the so-called jamindari, that is the land, and he should actually pay the thing. But if he fails to pay, what was the provision? He should face the penalties, possibility of losing jamindari, removal of jamindari. So one potential consequence of persistent non-payment or default is indeed removal from jamindari itself. This meant British government could terminate the jamindari rights to collect the so-called revenue. So it means what? Although they are jamindars of the land, they do not have this particular what do you say, flexibility to to get rid of those particular payments. Okay, so in my view, so you have two what do you say statements here. First is correct, second is also correct. So your answer is both 1 and 2. So under permanent settlements in Bengal, but if you consider only in Bengal, if the statement is representing, then you can say answer is A. Under permanent settlement in Bengal, not only in Bengal, basically it actually applies to all the jamindars, isn't it? So if you see that question in that way, we don't know how UPSC interprets. See, people, most of the times what happens is that there will be certain what do you say differences with respect to the keys that so-called academies that we provide and the keys of UPSC. The reason behind is the so-called perspective through which the UPSC sees. We don't know, in what view it is actually, giving the question. Okay, so I can say that the answer might be both 1 and 2, or it can be A. So there are, you can say either A can be correct or there are chances of C. Both the statements can also be, can be correct. Okay, so that was what about 57th question. Then let's go with 58th question. Consider the following statements. Again, they are going back to ancient India. There are no parables in Upanishads. Upanishads were composed earlier than Puranas. So, yes, Upanishads were composed earlier than Puranas. That was a right statement. Why? They are considered to be Upanishads. Upanishads means the so-called scholar, or you can say teacher, he explains the things to the students, okay, the disciples. So Upanishads were composed earlier to Puranas. They are the oldest religious texts in the world. Okay, so we can say that Puranas, on the other hand, it is a genre of ancient Indian literature that came later in the later stages. So in the third century and all. Okay, according to the archaeological survey we were speaking. So unlike Upanishads, which were primarily focused on philosophical, spiritual teachings, Puranas serve as a repositories of traditional knowledge. They tell about the legendary stories or the cultural history of the country. Fine. This much is something which you have learned in the ancient history, right? Fine. There are no parables in Upanishads is not a right statement, whereas Upanishads were composed earlier than Puranas. Yes, it is a right statement. Then, what does this parable mean? Like moral stories in a form of, in a form of stories you are explaining. See, when a guru explains something to a student, of course, they will create illusionary figures, or they will pick somebody as an example to, convey that. So, of course, Upanishads will have parables. Okay, there are no parables means it's a wrong statement. So, two only is the right answer here. Okay, so Upanishad predate the so-called Puranas and they also contain parables. Fine. So, 58th question. Then let's go with 59th question. Consider the following statements. India is a member of International Grains Council. Okay, so we have only history questions till here, I guess. Let us see if we have some more questions which were there in between those particular 59 to 100. But I think this is something which is related to current affairs itself. We cannot categorize it as any other question. Fine. India is a member of International Grain Council. Yes, it is. Countries that do not need to be a member of IGC is to export rice or wheat. Okay, so exporting these commodities is typically governed by bilateral trade agreements, international trade regulations. So, fine. India, yes, it is a member of International Grains Council. Then, countries need to be a member of International Grains Council for exporting and importing rights. No, they do not need to be. They do not need to be a member of IECG, sorry, IGC. Okay, there is no such thing. Okay, they do not need to be a member. So, second statement is wrong. So, A is the right answer. Then, let's go with another question. Which of the following was the latest inclusion in the intangible cultural heritage of UNESCO? Yes, it is Garba dance. Hope everybody must have answered it right because it is something which is recently included in the intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO. Garba dance. Okay, fine. So there ends, I think, the history questions. Let's go with the polity questions here. So compared to previous years, I can say this year we got a little less number of polity questions, but yes, good amount of quality polity questions were there. But there are more geography and environment, science and tech questions which I can see. Okay, fine. Who was the provisional president of Constituent Assembly before Dr. Rajendra Prasad took over? Okay, so every single book of polity teaches us who is the provisional president of Constituent Assembly before Rajendra Prasad. See, it is more like a fact-based question. Okay, so Dr. Sachidanand Sinha is someone who is a provisional president of the Constituent Assembly. Fine. So answer is D. Now, next question, 62nd. With reference to Government of India Act 1935, consider the following statement. It is provided for, see, um, from historical background of Indian Constitution, the first chapter of your polity, always there will be questions, isn't it? Generally, we get questions with respect to the regulation acts, and Government of India Act 1935 is always an important act, isn't it? So, fine. Let us go with the statements here. Okay, fine. It is provided. Okay, it is provided for the establishment of All India Federation based on Union of British Indian provinces and princely states. Yes, this particular statement is correct because if you learn Government of India Act, if you open your Lakshmikant, this will be clearly seen there. Then, second statement. Defense and foreign affairs were kept under the control of federal legislature. No, it is basically kept under Governor General, not federal legislature. So, second statement is incorrect. So, what is your answer? A is correct. Sorry, one is correct, two is incorrect. So option A is your answer. Okay. So 62nd question, option number A is your answer. Fine. Let's go with another one. These are, see, straight questions, guys. So you just need to remember the provisions of Government of India Act 1935 because that forms a very crucial part of Indian Constitution, right? So obviously, you need to remember those what do you say features, right? So 63rd question: which of the following is a work one attributed to playwright Bhasha? So basically, this question again a straightforward question. It was again a fact-based question. It is Madhyama Vyayoga. Okay, Madhyama Vyayoga, which is something attributed to the playwright Bhasha. Okay, so you can say C is your answer here. Okay, 64 is C. Then 65. Sorry, 63, right? So 63 is C. Let's go with another one, 64. Sangabhuti, an Indian Buddhist monk who traveled to China at the end of 4th century, was an author of the so-called commentary. Okay, what was that particular thing? So, as I told you, Buddhism and Jainism are the two important chapters of your ancient history. Okay, so I think they have shuffled ancient and polity. I thought the ancient history questions were ended there, but I guess we still have ancient questions here. When Sangabhuti is an Indian monk who traveled to China, and the commentary which he have written was Sarvasthivada Vinaya. Okay, so this was something which was written by him. So answer is C. Again, a direct question. So remember, people, whenever you are working, see, today we are here to have key explanation because here the people will have more urge to know what is the right answer in order to check their marks. But later stages, see, you definitely need to go through each and every option of your prelims paper. For example, if you go through this particular question or the earlier question which we have discussed with respect to Buddha, like Sakya Muni or Tathagata, etc. In earlier previous, in earlier papers also, previous year questions, we have many instances where they asked about Buddha. It means if you could have revised previous year questions and if you have went through all the four options of previous year questions, obviously you have more chances of answering certain questions in prelims. Okay, so fine. This is what we have discussed in prelims orientation as well, right? In April, we have conducted a prelims orientation where we discussed about how to plan your prelims, how to use probability techniques, how to manage your time to answer questions. There, we have discussed that how important PYQs are. I think this particular paper proves that word. Okay, fine. Let's go with another question, 65th. Consider the following properties included in World Heritage List released by UNESCO. Fine. So, coming to this particular thing, this question asks about how many of the above properties were included in 2023. Okay. So, basically, Mahabodhi Temple Complex at Bodh Gaya. This is included in 2002. Ranika Wow, Padmavat, isn't it? You must have seen the movie as well. So this is something which is included in 2014. Okay. Sacred assemblies of Hoysalas and Shanti Niketan are two important things which were added by UNESCO recently. Because Ranika Vav was included in 2014, Mahabodhi it was included in 2002. But which are the things that were included in 2023? It is Shanti Niketan and the sacred assemblies of Hoysalas. So what's your answer? Only two. So among all four, only two were included. Next, 66. As per Article 368 of the Constitution, the Parliament may amend any provision of the Constitution by the way of addition, variation, and repeal. Yes, all the three. Straight away from Lakshmikant. See, people, Always remember the historical background, fundamental rights, and the parliament, then the so-called what do you say, judiciary. These are very crucial parts of your polity. If you are thorough with the basics of them, obviously you can answer the questions. But what UPSC did is that in the earlier papers, they used to give more conceptual questions of polity, like straight away giving from NCRTs. But this time the questions were more straightforward, okay, directly from the facts and all. Okay, so see how uncertain this particular examination is. Okay, accordingly you have to prepare yourself. Fine. Right. 66 question is answer D. 67th question. Consider the following countries. Which of the above countries are frequently mentioned in media for low birth rates or aging population or declining population? So this is something which is related to statistics. So probably, only few of us might remember these things, but still we'll discuss the answer. Italy, Japan, South Korea. They are all the countries which are actually facing low birth rates. Okay, I think recently Japan also started a new policy in order to boost that. Okay, due to aging population, low birth rates, they started new policies as well. Italy, Japan, and South Korea. Okay, so your answer is 1, 2, and 4. So if you are aware that Japan is taking some precautionary steps with respect to this low birth rates and all, your answer will lie between A and C, isn't it? So you might guess, do some guesswork here as well. But if you remember it, or if you go through current affairs, of course, we can easily answer it. Okay, fine. Let's go with another one. 68. Which of the following statements are correct in respect of money bill in the parliament? Again, see, always questions from parliament will be appearing in the paper, guys. Always. So definitely, see, when it comes to geography, I'm telling you now. We must have discussed earlier as well in your classroom sessions, in your orientation. But again, I'm telling you, in geography, when it comes, basics of climatology and basics of physical geography are very important. Second, the so-called current current maps, current affairs related map points and all, these two are very important. You should not skip them. Then coming to economy, basics of economy, basic terminologies, for example, money, banking, share market, then the instruments of so-called instruments with respect to monetary policy, fiscal policy, budget. See, this year probably we do not have good amount of questions with respect to the, but still budget, economic survey are very important. These are crucial areas. Like every subject will have 4 to 8 crucial areas which you should not miss at all. If you could able to prepare that, you can easily clear prelims. Okay, if I say the same word in the classroom, you might feel it, or what every particular subject or every particular chapter is she is mentioning. But if you go through the paper and previous year questions, you'll understand how important these words are. And coming to polity, parliament is very important. Historical background is very important. Judiciary and certain articles of constitutions are very important. These, if you can identify and if you prepare, that's what we call it as smart preparation, isn't it? Fine. Let's go with the question here. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to money bill in the parliament? Article 109 mentions special procedure in respect of money bills. Yes, this is a right statement. A money bill shall not be introduced in the Council of States. Is it so? Of course, yes. If you go through Article 109, a money bill shall not be introduced in the Council of States. Okay. When the bill is passed by Lok Sabha, it should be transmitted to the Council of States. It can either approve it or it can give some recommendations. Okay. But it cannot amend or it cannot reject it. So I can say second statement shall not be introduced in Council of State is a right one. Then let's go with the third one. The Rajya Sabha can either approve the bill or suggest changes but cannot reject it. Yes, that's what Council of State means, Rajya Sabha. Okay, it can either approve or it can give some recommendations within, recommendations within 14 days, but it cannot reject it. So, yes, all the three are correct. Now let's go with the fourth one. Amendments to money bill suggested by Rajya Sabha have to be accepted by Lok Sabha. Is it so? No, no. It is a wrong statement. So Rajya Sabha doesn't play that particular role. Okay, so you can say fourth is a wrong option. So 1, 2, and 3. Answer is C here. 69th question. Which of the following is or correctly matched in terms of equivalent rank in the three services of Indian Defence Forces? Okay, so coming to here, he have given the Army, Air Force, and Navy. Okay, so coming to this particular part, okay, 69th question, right? Okay, so we have Brigadier, Air Commodore, and Commander. Okay, so in Army we call them Brigadier, in Air Force Air Commodore, and in Navy it is Commander is what he has given. Basically, Navy, what we call? We call them as Captain, isn't it? Equivalent ranks. Okay, of course, this is again a straightforward question, guys, but still, we can do nothing with it. If you learn here, see, out of all the 100 questions, if you could able to answer at least 60 questions, okay, and if some other questions goes wrong, you have a lot many chances of clearing the prelims. And there will be definitely some fact-based questions of this sort, which we never would have expected in UPSC. But still, such questions will help us to, help us in the next preparation. Okay, fine. Brigadier, Air Commander. Here, the equal rank is Captain. Then, Major General in Army. Here in Air Force, Air Vice Marshal, whereas in Navy we call it as Rear Admiral, not Vice Admiral, it is Rear Admiral. So these three are of equal rank. Then in Army, Major, in Air Force, Squadron Leader, and in Navy it is Lieutenant Commander. Yes, this is a right match. Fine, this is a right match. Then Lieutenant Colonel, Group Captain, and Captain. Basically, in Army, if he's a if you consider this rank of Lieutenant Colonel, in Air Force we call them Wing Commander. Okay, sometimes movies also help us to answer questions, right? So if you watch this particular movie, okay, with respect to I think that Kargil Girl Ka movie, there you can you can see those terminologies. Okay, and Gunjan Saxena, I guess. Okay, some movies are really good for our preparation, guys. Okay, so when you are so much stressed up with preparation, try watching that good movies, which really helps for your preparation. Fine, Lieutenant Colonel. Then it is Wing Commander in your Air Force, and they are called as Commander in Army. So out of three matches, we have only three which is correct. Okay, third match which is correct. Okay, so one is correct, three is correct here. Okay, now let's go with another question. 70th question. Okay, 70th question. The Northeastern Council was established by Northeastern Council Act 1971. Subsequent to the amendment of NEC Act in 2002, the council comprises of which of the following members? So here if you consider the NEC, which is established under the Act, it is having governor of the constituent state 1, chief minister of the constituent state 2, 3 members to be noted by the President of India, then the Home Minister of India. So it means all the four were something, these are all somebody who comprises of this so-called council. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them are right. Okay. Let's go with another one, 71. So how many delimitation commissions have been constituted by India till December 2023? So every time Every time delimitation commission or delimitation, the process of delimitation is very much important. So what does this delimitation commission does? It basically delimits the constituency. So you have different new constituencies that will be coming. It'll do that particular task based upon population. But we have many what do you say, issues with respect to fertility rate. The South India could able to maintain it. The North India, there are certain issues. So there are certain issues with respect to delimitation commission. So basically it happens once in every 10 to 11 years, isn't it? But it hasn't happened after 2002. So what are earlier delimitation commissions which were constituted? In 1952, it was first delimitation commission formed under Delimitation Act, okay, based upon 1951 census. Then we have 1963 delimitation commission, which is based upon 1961 census. Then we have 1973. So if you see, there is hardly some 10-11 years of difference, okay. Then finally we have 2002, the fourth delimitation commission, which is based upon 2001 census. Okay, so it orders came out in effect in 2008. So how many delimitation commissions have been constituted? Four. Okay, then 72. The Constitution 71st Amendment, see again 71st Amendment, 73rd, all these are very important always. Okay, Act 1992 amends Schedule 8 of your Constitution to include which of the following languages? Okay, so these are the questions which we often see in your academy papers as well, isn't it? In our test series also, there are many a times, see, they talk about eight schedule, they talk about different languages, the so-called how many languages that were included, what were the last languages that were included, okay, and which of those amendments which are concerned with it. There are many a times a question comes from this. Fine. 72nd question. It was Konkani, Manipuri, and Nepali. These are the three languages that were included in the eighth schedule. Okay. Whereas Bodo, Dogri, Santali, Maithili, they four were included in the another amendment. Okay. So that was one thing which you can remember. So Bodo, Dogri, Santali, Maithili is one particular set, and Konkani, Manipuri, and Nepali is one particular set. So your answer is 1, 2, and 3, which is option A. Then again, match the following question. Again here, correctly matched. Please do remember, always mark this. Many times it gives incorrectly matched as well, but this time you are saved. You are asked only correctly matched in most of the questions that we have seen so far. Okay, fine. If you are an aspirant who are writing UPSC for the first time, remember UPSC tries to confuse you by asking incorrectly matched as well. For that purpose, I was time and again mentioning this word. Okay, fine. There is a party which is mentioned on the left side and its leader. Fine. Bharatiya Janasangh. Okay, it is Shyam Prasad Mukherjee. This was a right match. Socialist Party. It was by Acharya Narendra Dev. It should come here. Okay. Then Swatantrata Party. Swatantrata Party, actually C. Gopalacharya. So this is a wrong match. Socialist Party is a wrong match. Then coming to Congress of Democracy, it is Jagjeevan Rao. So 1 and 3 are correct. So only 2 among them is correct. So B is your right answer. Okay. So this is wrongly matched. Socialist Party is by Acharya Narendra Dev, and this is by Rajagopalacharya. Right? Let's go with another one. 74th question. Which of the following statements are correct about the Constitution of India? Okay, 74 question. Powers of the municipalities are given in Part 11A of the Constitution. Emergency provisions are given in Part 18 of the Constitution. Provisions related to the amendment of Constitution are given in Part 20 of the Constitution. So, which of the so-called codes is correct? All the three is your answer. Okay, then let's go with another one. 75. Which of the following statement is correct as per the Constitution of India? Okay, now this question can be answered in a tricky manner. Okay, see, First statement, let us go with it. Interstate trade and commerce is a state subject. See, whenever the word interstate comes, of course, you can not say that is a state subject. It's an interstate, isn't it? The word itself states that it's not a part of state subject, right? So interstate migration is a state subject under state list. This is also a wrong statement. Yes. Then the third one, interstate quarantine is a union subject under union list. This is the right statement. Then corporation tax. Okay, corporation. So sorry, corporation tax is a state subject under state list. Of course not. So A, B, and D are incorrect. So answer is C. Okay, and the best way to remember it is whenever the word interstate comes. Okay, so interstate trade and commerce, interstate migration, interstate quarantine, corporation tax, they are all under union list. Again, the federal, the so-called unitary features, federal features you will be learning. So those chapters are also important. That's what is a takeaway here. 76. Under which of the following articles of the Constitution of India has Supreme Court of India placed right to privacy? Where is it as placed? Sorry. Article 21. Okay. So let me just. Okay. So answer is D. Okay. Next question. Yeah. So what are the duties of Chief of Defence Staff as a head of Department of Military Affairs? So here are certain duties of Chief of Defence Staff is given. First, Chief of Defence Staff is a permanent chairman of Chiefs of Staff Committee. It is correct. Okay, and Chief of Defence Staff is a single point military advisor, okay, to the Defence Ministry. Okay, he's a single point military advisor on the matters involving all three services. Service chiefs, okay, will be obliged to confine their counsel to issue, the pertaining their respective services and all. So it means what? He's a single point military advisor. Then the so-called Chief Defence Staff, Chief of the Defence Staff, CDS, does not exercise military command over the three services. So it means all are four-star officers. So it means what? Here, if you consider the statements, they exercise military command over three services, it is given. So it's a wrong statement. They do not exercise military command. Okay. Then principal military advisor to defense ministry on all three service matters. Yes, it is because he is a single point military advisor. So we can say principal military advisor as well. So one is correct and third statement is correct. So what's your answer? D. Okay. So D is correct. Then 78. Operations undertaken by Army towards the upliftment of local population in remote areas to include addressing of their basic needs. Okay, this is Operation Sadbhavana. Operation Sankalp is not concerned with it. Maitri is not concerned with Madad. All the three are not concerned with the upliftment of local population. So what is the task here, guys? If you have understood that it is Sambhavana which is related to local population, you need to do some background work with respect to Sankalp, Maitri and Madad as well. Hope you understand. So if they are closely connected options, then itself UPSC gives them in the option list, okay, in order to confuse you. Okay, so if you are preparing previous year questions in that way, going to the question, understanding the answer and working upon the other three options, that becomes an easier task for you to clear prelims in the other, attempts. Next, 79th question. The longest border, okay, again, see, there is a mixed match of questions. There are certain geography questions here and there, and ancient and medieval, ancient and economic questions were distributed differently. Fine, let us see. The longest border between two countries in the world. China and India, no. Kazakhstan and Russia Federation is no. Chile and Argentina is also not. It is Canada and USA. I think, if I'm not wrong, it is around 8,800 something kilometers of length. Okay, so it's the longest border between any two countries. Okay, so A is your answer. 79 is A. Then, which of the following statement about the ethics committee in Lok Sabha are correct? Okay, so first one. Initially, it was a ad hoc committee. Yes, of course. If you go through the so-called content, you can understand. And any person or member can make a complaint relating to unethical conduct of the member of Lok Sabha. Okay, so it is basically any person or member can complain. Here it is given only member of Lok Sabha can make a complaint relating to unethical conduct. It is given. So that this is an incorrect statement. Any member can give. Then the committee cannot take up any matter which is sub judice. So basically, you can say the third statement is also correct. So your answer is 1 and 3. So 2 you can eliminate. Fine. Okay. Then consider the following statements regarding Nari Shakti Vandan Abhinayam. Okay. So basically, this question again comes from some schemes of the government. Okay, so coming to 106th constitutional amendment provisions. Okay, it relates to reservation of seats for women in Lok Sabha. Okay, Lok Sabha, had legislative assemblies of state, and the NCT of Delhi shall come into effect after delimitation is undertaken. Okay, so here, the first statement provisions will come into effect from after 18th Lok Sabha. No, they actually come into effect after delimitation is undertaken. Okay, after the census. So it's not after 18th Lok Sabha. Then this will be in force for 15 years after becoming an act. So here, see people, we have to pick the correct statements. Okay, so it means one is incorrect. Can you eliminate one from the options? So here's we got an answer. So if you have learned about this particular Nari Shakti, okay, Bandhan Abhinayam, you can easily understand that it is after delimitation. Of course, it's a major provision. So if you eliminate one, your answer is C. So it means this will be in force for after 15 years becoming an act. It's not a wrong. It was a correct statement. There are provisions for reservation of seats for SC women, scheduled caste women within the quota reserved for the scheduled caste. Yes, both the statements are correct. So 81 C. 82. Which of the following statements about exercise Mitra Shakti 2023 are correct? Okay, so Mitra Shakti is a joint military exercise. It was in news between India and Sri Lanka. Current affair question. Sri Lanka. So you can say this is not correct. Then it took place in Pune, Oudh region of Pune, and Indian Air Force, IAF, and Sri Lankan Air Force participated in this particular thing. So second statement is correct. It is commenced in Oudh, Pune. It took place in Pune. Then IAF, Indian Air Force, was a part of this particular exercise. So this is correct. Then, both Indian and Sri Lankan Air Force participated in the exercise. The scope of the exercise includes joint responses during the counter-terrorist operation. So, it is joint response during the counter-terrorist operation was a goal of this particular thing. So, one is the wrong statement. Again, you can actually eliminate one. Of course, you'll get your answer. If you knew that Mitra Shakti is an exercise between India and Sri Lanka, that one information, if you remember, you can answer this question right, even if you're not aware of the other three options. Okay, so it means sometimes common sense and some knowledge of current affairs will help us to answer few questions of UPSC. Fine, let's go with another question. 83rd one. Fine. A writ of prohibition is an order issued by Supreme Court or High Court to whom? Okay, so again, this is a direct question, guys, isn't it? Isn't it a direct question? Of course, yes, it's a direct question. So it is coming from the Parliament chapter. Okay. So the Supreme Court or High Court to the lower court prohibiting continuation of proceedings in the case. So it means you need to learn about all the writs: habeas corpus, mandamus, probation, quo warrantum. There are many writs we have, isn't it? We have writs which are very, very important. Okay, fundamental rights is also most important chapter of polity. But of course, this year we don't see any question till now. Let us see if there are any questions of fundamental rights further. But fundamental rights is also most important chapter. So your parliament, fundamental rights, sometimes federal, structure and historical background. These are very, very important topics. Fine. 83rd answer is C. Let's go with another one. 84th. Consider the following statements, okay, and which of the above statement is correct. So we have to pick up the right statements, okay. So 84, okay. It is governor of the state who recognizes and declares any community of the state as scheduled tribe. Is it so? No, it is wrong. So it's not the governor of the state. Okay, so under clause 1 of Article 342, the president may, with respect to any state or union territory, and where it is a state, after consultation with the governor thereof, notifies the tribes, tribal communities. Okay, it means there is a process that was going on. It is not only the governor who decides. So first statement is incorrect. Okay. And also this process allows for state specific recognition. Okay. The community declared as scheduled tribe in the state need not need not be so in another state. This is again state specific. So I can say two is a right statement. So one is wrong, two is right. Your answer is B. Okay. Here, if he would have asked you to pick the incorrect one, your answer must have been A. Okay. Here, but you are asked to write correct statement. So your answer is B. Fine. Then, with reference to union budget, consider the following statements. Oh, you got a question from budget. The Union Finance Minister, on behalf of Prime Minister, lies an annual financial statement before both the houses of the Parliament. Second statement: at union level, no demand for grant can be made except on the recommendation of the President of India. So, what was the answer for this, guys? At union level, according to article, which article talks about budget? Article 112 of your Indian Constitution says that the president shall, in respect of every financial year, cause to be having the laid before the so-called houses of the parliament the budget. Therefore, financial minister lays an annual financial statement on behalf of president. Okay, so that is something which is said in the Article 112. So it means here the Union Finance Minister on behalf of Prime Minister. Wrong statement. Okay, so at union level, no demand for grant can be made except on the recommendation of President of India. So your answer is B, 85. Then let's go with another one, 86. Again, it's a straight question, fact-based question. Who of the following is the author of the books The India Way and Why Bharat Matters? It is Subramanya Jaishankar is the author of The India Way and Why Bharat Matters. Okay, S. Jaishankar. Okay, then 87. Consider the following pace. We have country which is given and reason for being in news. See, this is again straight away current affair based question. Fine. Let's go with the options. Argentina, it is basically facing worst economic crisis. Yes, that is true. Sudan. So, clashes erupted between Rapid Support Force, which is RSF, and parliamentary group led by Mohammad Dagalo, okay, which is known as Hemiti. Okay, so it's a and the so-called military in Sudan. So war between countries' regular army and paramilitary forces is something which is given here. Then coming to the last one, Turkey. Turkey rescinded its membership of NATO. So there are three particular things here. So only two pairs are correct. Okay, only two pairs are correct. So one of them is incorrect. Let's go with another one. Let's move a little faster. Consider the following statements. Okay, Suez pipeline is a strategic route for Persian Gulf oil and natural gas shipments to Europe, and Suez pipeline connects Red Sea with Mediterranean Sea. Basically, Suez pipeline is a strategic route for Persian Gulf. Yes, that's a right statement. It's correct. Okay, Suez means humid, or you can say Suez. Okay, Suez means Suez Canal and Mediterranean Sea pipeline. Okay, Suez Canal and Mediterranean. Suez means Suez and Mediterranean pipeline. We say. Okay, it is indeed a strategic route to Persian Gulf to Europe. Then statement two, it is Suez Mediterranean pipeline connects Red Sea with Mediterranean Sea is also a correct statement, and this explains this. So A is your answer. Both are correct, and second explains first one. Okay. 89th question. Consider the following statements. Red Sea receives again. We have some geography questions here. Red Sea receives very little precipitation in any form. Of course, what is Red Sea, guys? You have Africa like this, isn't it? You have Africa, which is like this, and you have Saudi Arabia like this. Okay, so you have Red Sea here. If you consider Red Sea experiences continentality, isn't it? It is surrounded by land bodies all over. So if any, what do you say, body is continent experiences continentality, there will be less precipitation. So first statement is correct. Okay, then no water enters Red Sea from rivers. Yes. Why? Because Red Sea is an example of linear sea. What is a linear sea? It is one of the stages of divergence. Whenever, see people, whenever two tectonic plates diverge, it means when they are breaking into two parts. First, there will be cracks, then faults you can see, then you will find Rift Valley, and the next stage is linear sea, and finally you have mid oceanic ridges. So Rift Valley means East African Rift Valley, you can consider mid oceanic region Atlantic. So this particular Red Sea is a example of linear sea formed due to divergence. So here in Red Sea there is no river which is entering. So both the statements are correct. Okay, both 1 and 2 are correct. Let's go with another one. Okay. So according to Environment Protection Agency, which of the following is the largest source of sulfur dioxide emissions? So EPA, it's a Environmental Protection Agency. Okay, the largest source of sulfur dioxide emissions in United States is coal-fired power plants. Okay, so it means your answer is power plants using fossil fuels. These power plants release sulfur dioxide into atmosphere when coal emissions contribute to air pollution. So option number D is your answer. Consider the following statements. Fine. So first one. Which of the following is correct? So you have to pick the correct among the above. There is instability and worsening security situation in Sahel region. What is Sahel? Sahel is nothing but grasslands, tropical grasslands of Africa. So Sahel region stretches across the Africa south of Sahara Desert. Okay, it has been experiencing instability and worst security situation. So, due to terrorism, due to armed conflicts, intercommunal violence, and all. So, that's the reason statement one is correct. Statement two, in there have been military takeovers, coups, in several countries of Sahel region in the recent past. Yes, in recent years, several countries in Sahel region like Mali, okay, Chad, they all experienced military takeovers. So, both the statements are correct. Okay. And of course, the so called second statement explains the first statement. The reason of military takeovers, okay, is something which is responsible for instability there. So both the statements are correct, and second explains first statement. Okay, so that's what your answer is. So you have A, which is a right option. Okay, then let's go with 92nd question. Consider the following statement. India does not import apples from United States of America. In India, the law prohibits the import of genetically modified food without the approval of competent authority. Basically, India does not import apples from USA is an incorrect statement. India does import apples from there. Second, India, yes, there are certain laws which prohibits genetically modified food, okay, without an approval or and all. So here, statement 1 is incorrect, statement 2 is correct. So option D is your answer. 93. With reference to the Speaker of Lok Sabha, consider the following statements. While any resolution for the removal of Speaker of Lok Sabha is is under consideration, which of the following statements are correct? Okay, so 93 guys, here you can see that he should not preside. This is one thing which is correct. Yes or no? Speaker should not reside in any resolution for his removal. So during the resolution for removal of speaker he cannot preside. Then he may be present. He may be present. It is not that he shall not have a right to speak. He may be present and he can speak, take part in the proceedings of the house. Okay, but he cannot preside it. Okay, then so second one, he shall not have a right to speak. No, that's a wrong one. Then he can take part in the proceedings of the house at such a time and also vote in the first instance. So here it is given he shall not be entitled to vote. So second, third is also wrong. So one only is a right statement. Okay, so all the questions which were coming are from the most important chapters that ever thought in any preparation pattern. Okay, all these particular chapters are most important. I think this year's cutoff might be little more because if you see the so-called paper and the standard of questions, I guess that there will be little higher cutoff compared to last year. Fine, let us see what happens. With reference to Indian Parliament, consider the following statements. As I told you earlier, Parliament is the most important chapter. Okay, so 94. Okay, 94 question. A bill, yeah, 94, right? A bill pending in the Lok Sabha lapses on its dissolution. Yes. A bill passed by Lok Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha lapses on dissolution of the Lok Sabha. Yes, this is also right one. A bill in regard to which President of India notified his intention to summon the houses to a joint sitting lapses on the dissolution of Lok Sabha. No, because according to Article 108, bill in regard to which President of India notified his intention to summon, okay, to a joint sitting, it does not lapse. It does not lapse. So in Lakshmikant, you'll be having a table wherein when bill will lapse, when it doesn't, and all. So if you have seen that in a proper manner, you would have understood it. So third statement is incorrect. You have to pick the right statement. 1 and 2 is right. So 94 is B. With reference to the Parliament of India, consider the following statements. Fine. Again, a important question from Parliament. Prorogation of the House by the President of India does not require advice of Council of Ministers. See, prorogation of House generally done after House is adjourned sine die. Okay, but there is no bar to the President of India prorogating the House which is in session. Okay, so that is one thing which you know. That the power of summoning or prorogation of the House is vested in the President. Okay, though it is exercised on the aid and advice of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. So this is one thing which we knew. So with that knowledge, you can see first is a wrong option. So you can eliminate one. So your answers lie between 2 and 3 and 3. You obviously know second statement is correct because prorogation is generally done after House is adjourned sine die, but there is no bar to the President of India prorogating the House which is in session. So second is the right statement. So what will be your answer? C will be your answer. So obviously second should be right, one should go wrong. So what option actually proves that? C. So C is your answer. So this paper somehow I feel it actually allows us to eliminate. It allows us to use our common sense or your past knowledge to answer. Okay. 96. Consider the following statement. Statement number 1. The European Parliament approved the Net Zero Industry Act recently. Yes, it is in news. It is a correct statement. Okay. The European Parliament has approved Net Zero Industry Act to enhance net zero technology production within European Union. Then, statement number 2. The European Union intends to achieve carbon neutrality by 2040 and therefore aims to develop all of its own clean technology by that time. So basically, the act targets to produce 40% of net zero technology by 2030. It's not that it intends to achieve carbon neutrality. That's quite, impossible, isn't it? Of course, in this present situation, it is not so easy a task. So statement 2 is incorrect for us, whereas 1 is right. So option C is your right answer. Then 97. Consider the following statements, again a current affair based question. Recently, Venezuela has achieved a rapid recovery from its economic crisis, succeeded in preventing its people from immigrating to other countries. No. Recently, it has achieved rapid recovery from its economic crisis and succeeded in preventing its people fleeing to other countries. So, it means you can say 97th question. Venezuela has world's largest oil reserves. This is the second statement. So second statement is incorrect. Okay. So first statement is also it has achieved rapid recovery from economic crisis is also a wrong statement. So it means our answer is Venezuela, one of known largest proven oil reserves. Okay, surpassing Saudi Arabia. So it has not achieved. So both are wrong. So which option we can pick here? Basically, it hasn't achieved rapid recovery, and Venezuela has world's largest oil. It has proven reserves. Okay, so it has oil reserves. So this is wrong, and this is right. No, so one is incorrect, and two is correct. So this is your answer. Hey, I'm sorry, I've marked it wrong here. Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves. Fine. Okay. Then 98. With reference to Digital India Land Records Modernization Program, consider the following statements. To implement the scheme, the central government provides 100% funding. Under the scheme, cadastral maps are digitized. An initiative has been undertaken to transliterate the records of rights from the local language to any of the languages recognized by government, recognized by Constitution of India. Basically, all the three are right statement here, guys. Okay, Digital Land Records Modernization Program has aimed for this itself. Okay, so all the three are right statements here. Let's go with 99. With reference to Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Mitritva Abhiyan, consider the following statement. Every time, at least one or two questions from schemes and programs is expected. Reports and indices is important. I don't think we have a question from reports and indices so far, but schemes and programs are also important. But of course, hardly we'll get one question out of it. Okay, fine. Coming to this particular question, the scheme guarantees a minimum package of antenatal care services to women in their second and third trimesters of pregnancy and 6 months of post-delivery healthcare services to any government, any government health facility. So this is right. Right. Under the scheme, private health care providers of the sector, certain specialities can volunteer to provide services at nearby government. Both the statements are correct here. Pradhan Mantri, Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan. Okay, so this is the right one. Then let's go with the last question of this particular discussion. With reference to Pradhan Mantri Sham Yogi Mandhan Yojana, consider the following statements. Okay, so the entry age group for enrollment of the scheme is 21 to 40. No, it is 18 to 40. Pradhan Mantri Sham Yogi Mandhan Yojana is a voluntary and contributory pension scheme. Okay, if anybody from unorganized workers can enter from 18 to 40 years of age. So first is wrong. So you can eliminate one. So your answer lies between 2 and 3 and 3. So it means you can understand 2 is definitely a right statement. See, certain times, if you know a smaller information, you can use elimination to answer it, right? So fine. With this, we can say that. So you can see fourth is not an option. One is wrong. So you can eliminate these two. So your answer lies between B and C. So if you see the third option, you can easily conclude that. Let's see the third option. Each subscriber under the scheme shall receive a minimum pension of 3,000 per month after attaining an age of 60 years. That was one of the best part of the scheme, I must say. So, third statement is correct. So, what's your answer? B is your answer. So, that's all about your discussion, people. So far, with the help of all the team members of Susan Academy and with the so-called their efforts, we could able to make a precise, comprehensive, and a proper discussion of all the questions of Set A of PT. So sooner we will have more sessions of GS coming. So the admissions for the GS were also open. And I must say all the best for all those who have got good marks in PT this time. You must have calculated or your marks. And those who couldn't able to make this particular prelims, remember the so-called previous year questions are most important, what do you say, asserts for us in order to clear the upcoming prelims. All right. So if you could able to go through the previous year questions properly, all these questions you can answer easily. Okay, this must be a lesson for us that we should not leave the basics. Okay, we will run behind the advanced concepts in every subject, right? And we generally neglect the basics. Okay, so that is something which you should not do. That's what is a takeaway from this particular year's paper. And thanks a lot everyone who have attended this session. So this is all about the so-called discussion of key. Thank you.